Hello and welcome everyone to the Upsurge Premier League pre-show. My name, Eric Deserex Beltran, followed by my co-caster, it is Dean Rebel Fox Merrick. And Rebel, it was a big welcome to week number 1 of UPL's fall season, with matches like ANEW versus Dark Allegiance and Grandview versus Peak Performance. What personally are your thoughts of last week with the way things went down?
First off, I really enjoyed a lot of the comebacks from a number of the players that we saw on scouting grounds. I know
Hmm.
after that summer split, everybody gets on that big high, kind of the sugar rush of what happened trying to qualify for like the best tournaments. But I think when it comes to rebound seasons, this is one of the best I think we've seen in quite some time. We got players all over the place in every division that are looking really, really solid. I'm really, really happy with the results that we now have coming into this fall split.
Yeah, there was a lot of competition, a lot of 2-1 series last week as well. Unfortunately, there were 2 reschedules, so some hype matches we were anticipating weren't exactly there just yet, but they're going to be coming up. And, to dissect a few of those, we need to go into something like stock prices. Yeah, we got to start seeing how people are flowing with their economics. We got to see what is the best thing to really put your gamble on.
I don't know that anybody has anything like that in the Upsurge though. Like, have we ever done anything like that before? I don't know if we have anything. Oh wow, look at that! Look at that! Wow, stock prices. Wow.
Absolutely looking splendid. Week number 1 stock price right there. You can see Hugh with the 520 leading the pack. That was the best one to really put your money on. If going from the bottom up, this is the best one to really put your money on for week number 1, at least in the bottom of the pack. But there's still a little bit of the top end teams, and of course, some of the favorites, as you can see, is Maryville all the way at the very peak top, with Mirage also showing up and Zenith as well.
Yeah, you got Noble in there. Zenith is kind of that new team. TBA, the team that actually that's not a waiting sign. That's actually just the name of their team. Just Randoms, Grandy, like all of these
Mhm.
are recognizable names for a reason, and they're a reason why they're on the top end of the price range because you gotta spend the money to get some of those solidified names within the UPL here. You can't just be penny stock in this.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it right there. That was week number 1. That's what we started off with. But now that week number 1 is done, we do have some of the changes coming up into week number 2 for those stock prices to see who's investing the wisest.
Yeah, you saw the crash of the Harrisburg stock. Now, again, I don't really remember who had invested anything. Grandview in the same way. Also, Grandview is actually, I believe, seventh on this list. Ended up dropping 4 or 5 slots in that regard after having lost. So, some pretty big drop prices, especially for the middle of the pack teams. And we'll get a chance to look at what happened before, but we get to see how after some of the other games went, how their stock prices ended up changing a little bit as well.
Yeah, and of course, once again, we did have those 2 reschedules, so some of these stocks aren't changing, like the number 1 you see right there, Maryville. But some slight changes to week number 2. Nothing too drastic just yet, unless you're someone like Rebel Fox who puts it all in on just one team, just the randoms, my dude.
Yeah. We're getting Roblox actually jumped up like $56 because of their
Mhm.
successes that they had in week number 1. They had some really solid games. I believe they took 2-1 over what was it, Noble Esport, or my apologies, it was UT Dallas Comets, which they're not a top end team, but still taking wins as a team that's that it may be unexpected. It got them quite a bit of stock price. I don't remember who, if anybody, actually invested into it, but it might be a team to keep your eye on if you're playing alongside at home.
Mhm, and, well, we are playing when it comes to these stocks, so when it comes to these stocks, I mean, the stock prices are set. We gotta take a closer look into the
Yeah.
portfolios of some of our staff to see how everyone's doing, really.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and ignore the top part of that because I don't feel the need to gloat anytime soon. Flexing that 9 times just random stock, knowing that that price was gonna jackpot. Although Alk Battery, I'm sure will get a nice little boost once Maryville decides to play one of their games this week because they missed their game last week, unfortunately. And you see, there's only 2 people that are sitting below. Chilling Walks, Max, what are you guys doing? But put too much in a Zenith, man. How do you invest 8 times in a Zenith? They dropped their stock price. He lost so much money.
What about the real gamble that's coming up, the ANEW one with Cubby? You got the ANEW versus Maryville match that's gonna be coming up later today. That's definitely gonna be a pretty all-in gamble.
Yeah, that could make him some bank though. Unfortunately, those 3 Harrisburg stocks are really kinda dragging him down right now because they did not have a good performance in week number 1. But as you said, that could be an absolute slam dunk depending on how tonight goes in their matchup against the new.
Yeah, I got my 3 Maryvilles, no bias coming in, and, We got to see how things really play out. I mean, the stocks are done. We got to ride the next wave of matches to see who
Mm.
turns a profit and whose gamble sends their finances for a complete downturn. But, speaking of ups and downs, we do have a little segment we like to do here on Upsurge known as Upsurge, Downsurge. Now, it's pretty much the amateur version of this or that, where we get 2 slides presented, we got a prompt, and we got to choose one of those slides and determine why that is the most true to the prompt.
This will be fun. I personally like the red one. The red color on downsurge is usually what I prefer.
Uh, Oh,
Ooh.
here comes the first one. Upsurge, downsurge. Better stock strategy. You can see Hyper over there, just investing it all into Mirage and Maryville, and Elk Battery being the ninja right here, hopping from side to side, team to team. Whoever's gonna bring the most profit.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm picking right now and I'm going between upsurge and downsurge, I really do actually have to give it to the downsurge here and Alk Battery's take risk strategy. The fear that you've got if Mirage or Maryville drops a game will lose you so much money. Like to invest in top end stocks, if anything goes wrong, you're bankrupt right then and there. If you take risks,
Yeah,
at minimum, you have lower risk as to whether or not it goes up. And I gotta say, Alk's probably playing the game right here.
yeah, I think Alt's definitely playing the game right. I mean, sometimes if you go for some of those lower end teams and they do manage to get that upset, that's a big twist in your stocks right there. You suddenly got a
Mm.
huge profit going. You were saying the risk of playing those high end teams. Once they don't show up, well, you're pretty much just SOL right then and there. But yeah, the great first slide. We got to get over to the second slide now. Let's see what Hyper has in store for us today. Upsurge or downsurge? Bigger day one upset. Is it PSG Talon crushing LGD or is it Maryville 2-0 with Noble Esports?
I don't know what you're talking about. That is not an upset. I don't think anybody actually didn't expect Maryville B to just destroy Noble Esports. Like PSG Talent, they came out, they beat the number 14. This is a team with they got Langshin, they've got Peanut. You're telling me you came out and you thought that the number 1 or the number 2 seed out of the LMS was gonna beat a team with Langshin and Peanut alone, let alone like Kramer and Mark in the bottom? No, man, that's an upsurge all day.
But come on, it's the play-ins right now. I mean, LGD, people are pretty much unanimously saying league's greatest disappointment. Sadly enough, their showing definitely hasn't been too promising. But I gotta go with you on that one. PSG Talon crushing LGD. I had much more hope for Peanut as he came back in with LGD, and yeah, it's definitely a disappointment to see those see that result come through. We got to move on to the next slide though. All right, what do you got for us? Bigger loss, Max's stock value, or the itemization changes
Oh.
when it with all the oh my god, why do you got to go after Smacks though? That's the
Poor Smacks, man. He did nothing to deserve. Okay, in fairness though, you look at actually all the items that they're replacing right now, and okay, Gunblade's pretty much gone, Static Ship's pretty much gone. A couple of these items are just getting reworked into slightly different items. So like GLP, I think there's a
Mhm.
replacement specifically for that. Adaptive Helm, there's something that kind of replaces it. The jungle items are just a little bit different from what they were. I'm gonna have to say Smacks' stock value, unfortunately. So I just gotta try to twist the knife in his side, unfortunately, because really that's got to be the bigger downturn here.
You know what, and I gotta agree with you on that as well. Like this RIP to Riot removing the items, it doesn't include Mad Magical's favorite item, which is the good old Ohm Wrecker. So
Oh,
if Ohm Wrecker's not in there, it's not that big of a disaster. So Smacks, I'm sorry, that stock is just that's a loss right there, man. That's a big L. We gotta move on to the next slide, and I know this one's gonna be a spicy one. More biased caster, TL Jat or Dean Rebel Fox Merrick. Look at that little Maryville University icon there in the corner. I want to know your personal opinion of this Dean Merrick fellow.
well, I gotta be honest. That's me for one thing. Number two, Jed actually stopped casting once he began coaching. So I think I'm the only one that you can select in this situation. I am unfortunately the more biased caster.
Yeah, you can see that color of red you're turning right now just to match Maryville's logo. Like that's the true bias showing. So yeah, TL Jat definitely what you just said. He stopped casting when he started coaching. You're playing both sides, man. You're playing both sides.
Yeah, I get all the benefits of everything. I don't see a downside here.
Oh man, insider trading right here. That's
That's
gonna do
right.
it for Upsurge, Downsurge, and oh, we actually got one more. Okay.
Mhm.
What's this surprise slide we got coming in here? Better upsurge or downsurge layout? The top, bottom, or the left, right? The rip off or the pretend to be original? What is it?
Okay. I'm trying to figure this one out here. So this or that ripoff or the one that actually has up and down. Interesting.
Upsurge, downsurge, up, down. I think it kind of makes sense to me.
That does make sense. We have our own little variant, especially like I said, when you do like the color inversion and it turns red instead of blue. Like there's some fire graphics that go along with it. You can see it right there in the background. You can see a little red wave. You can't tell me that that's not absolutely fire. We're going down surge on this one. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta go with the bottom one. The one that actually has up and down,
Mhm.
upsurge, downsurge. I like that layout better. I mean, like, you can see us on the right-hand side of the screen right here, looking, just handsome as ever, especially you. Look at that red face still. The Maryville logo shining through. But throwing back to that, we're not letting it go. We're not letting it go,
I
especially
never
with
will.
Maryville being one of the teams.
Yeah, that we're casting tonight, thankfully. So definitely no aversion here, no preferential treatment here given by our casters whatsoever in our fantastically featured game tonight, which will of course also determine the future of Cubby stock prices. So I'm sure he's somewhere in the chat just sweating right now, probably with a redder face than I have.
Yeah, so that will do it for Upsurge, Downsurge. But this time, for realsies, looking at that portfolio one more
Mhm.
time, just to get a last good glimpse of just how much stock value Rebel Fox is getting. Not even going for Maryville right then and there. I got to go look at the other Discord right now to see where your stocks lie, Rebel. Where's that
Yeah, I mean,
insider trading?
insider trade. Hey, I did not trade one single Maryville stock. I completely removed myself from that situation, which is why all of mine are currently invested in just randoms at the moment. And it has netted me enough here to get to the top, so that's good. Of course, when Maryville plays, I'm sure a lot of this does eventually change, that will be a problem in the future, but that's not something I'm going to worry about.
And speaking of that, we got to start talking about our matchup of the
Hmm.
day. I mean, this is going to be pretty hype right here. This is going to be almost the fight for seed one of this group. And it's already starting off very early because ANEW and Maryville, they're very, very established teams, and they are the ones who will be going head to head today.
Yeah, slowly, as we continue through a lot of these like scouting ground circuit type plays, especially during the course of the summer, there's been a big rivalry that's been developed between the side of Maryville, where they're always top four, top eight, something like that in that top level of teams. And ANEW is right there as well, where they've now gone two splits in a row of having teams make it to the finals and actually get people into
Mhm.
scouting grounds. And so the competition between the two teams is really, really heavily there. I do know this isn't the same new roster that came out in the summer, but still, at least the history between the two teams is certainly there to talk about.
Oh yeah, ANEW is definitely a very, very established team, especially when they started off. I believe like early 2019, I believe, is when NEW decided to just show their heads. And since they have been one of those stronger orgs in the amateur scene, and now we have a completely revamped roster for them. We got kind of this like Frankenstein's monster of North American amateur talent that's been in
Mhm.
for quite some time. I mean, Infectrix, Freeze, Cavell, these are names we've seen for ages in amateur.
That they are, and some of them had some pretty impressive splits as we looked through. You talk about like Freeze when he was able to make some things work. Infectrix was on a Polar Race squad that actually made it into playoffs as well. So there's some impressive players that came about. Again, it's a little weird because like Cavella, I don't know where he came from. He's like 2 years removed from Scouting Ground Series, and he came out of nowhere and suddenly rejoined this team, which I'm really happy to see. I'm excited to see how some of the players that have been gone for a little while actually retransition back into the competitive scene like this.
Yeah, and another name that pops up to me is King Georgie, otherwise known as I Love Jungkook right now.
Mhm.
But him, he's very, very old school. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing this one, but if he is, this is a player that comes from like the golden age of Azio's dynasty back in 2018 when they ran the amateur scene. So he does have a lot of power, a lot of experience. He's definitely won before, but since it's the same story with a lot of these players, it has always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. They're never able to get that very, very top spot. And now with this new established roster, that's what ANEW's hoping to do.
And I know in the prior week, at least the game series that I was able to watch from A New Dawn, a lot of that was from Jungkook. His ability to play that ADC role, they seem to lean on him quite a bit. And it is a well-rounded roster where they're able to take fights pretty much across the board. But he still seemed like kind of the kind of a lightning rod and the ability to soak
Mhm.
pretty much everything on the map. He was their main carry, things like that. And so if he doesn't play tonight, that will be kind of sad. It would be upsetting to see them not be able to play at absolute full strength. Unless, of course, Dog took the starting position, which would shock me because, again, he seemed to be playing very well last week. And if Dog took that position, I can't
Mhm.
imagine how well he's playing right now.
That being said, they did have some good moments and they did have some bad moments
Mhm.
because if you did watch that whole match, ANEW versus Dark Allegiance, it was a shaky game in some of the. I mean, it could have been Dark Allegiance's game where ANEW almost completely threw their entire lead, and just one team fight is all it took to get them back in. So we are seeing some of the shaky ground that this team was really formed on, and hopefully they are able to start coming together as cohesive unit. But we got to look at the other side of the rift. There's
Mhm.
enough about ANEW. We got to talk about Rebel Fox's favorite team, Maryville Esports.
And Maryville, I could talk about them for a long time for specific reasons, but how about I just give you some tallies? First off, they came top 3 at scouting grounds over the summer, which I think for a lot of people that was a lot of success, a lot of really good stuff for them. I don't think it was even close to what they wanted. They came out at UCLA's like invitational. They stomped their way through, didn't even lose a game. Hugh Fest, they took 1 and 2. They took 1 over top of their sister team, who also plays elsewhere in the bracket tonight. Like this team is absolutely decimating their way through the scene right now. Just on the verge of the fact that they got 3rd in scouting ground. This is one of the best teams in amateur, and now they're just stomping through everybody else as they continue to go on this rampage.
It reminds me of the Spider-Man meme, the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other when it comes to Hugh's finals, just Maryville, Maryville. But that shows you how good they've been. The last half of the summer for them has been nothing but top 3 finishes. They're an absolutely phenomenal team, and they're a star-studded roster as well. When Maryville first started signing a lot of these high-value players for North American Amateur and their collegiate scene, it's been nothing but success. I mean, some of the names on here, one of the ones that pops out to me is Niles. He's a legend of the North American Amateur scene, one of the best top laners North America really has to offer.
You've seen him do some pretty crazy stuff. He has champions in his pool that'll do that. He's able to solo carry. He's able to split push. He's able to team fight. He's a very just well rounded player in general, which is what the roster is almost built around. Is their ability to not just play to the individual talent of these players and just say, all right, Niles, play whatever you want. You can smash your opponent later. They actually play a pretty well reserved style, which is nice to see. Like this is one of our more technically proficient amateur teams, and if you want to get better, this is one of the best teams to watch when you're seeing these things. Is to be able to watch a team with the kind of macro skills that they bring out, with all of the danger they bring in their solo lanes, with guys like Niles.
Yeah, and not just the solo lanes too, but going down to the bot lane. Value has been praised for having some of the best positioning in North American Amateur. Usually his KDAs look great, even in the games where they lose. He was a long-time Supernova player before he switched over to Maryville. Twitch Rivals, he was on the squad that Yasuo that got second place as well against Tyler's team.
Yeah, he and Julian both got pulled in because his name speaks for himself. I remember when I first started watching him, especially like the Ezreal that he had back when Ezreal was really meta. And I remember getting glimpses of like deft with his positioning being almost flawless, being able to put out DPS so well. He's a very good weak side bot laner also. In terms of just kind of
Mhm.
letting someone sit there, collect farm for the entire game, and then letting them carry in the lane. You won't find many ADCs that are capable of taking all that pressure and still putting out the damage that Value will be able to. That's what makes him such a threat. Combine that with Shady, who's like one of the best roaming supports that we've seen. He's played for such a long time as well. You've got a really terrifying bot lane.
Yeah, and then of course Iconic over in the jungle, just a very aggressive player. He used to be one of the what I call them Nidalee Sin players, the ones who go for the early game aggro and are just always in your face with aggression. Now he has diversified that champ pool quite a bit, so we know Iconic can bring a lot to the table when it comes to Maryville and getting his lanes online.
Yeah, you want to talk about like Nidalee Sin? Now he's like Nidalily Sin because Lilia is definitely in there for me. I get the fortune of getting to watch him play that champion, and it's honestly one of the best things I've seen is being able to watch him play something like the
Mm.
Lilia. And I would expect that. I actually made that comment at HughFest. I remember Audio Adrenaline was my co-caster, and he said, "What is your tip to teams that are playing against Maryville?" The only thing I could say was ban Lilia because really the champion will they will beat you with this champion time and time again. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be a hot contested champion. I mean, we've kind of see where the world's meta has taken the jungle pool. We've been seeing like more of the Graves, the Lilia, the Kindred, stuff like that start to pop up, and it's still reflective over to what's going on in the amateur scene as well. Infectrix does put a lot of priority on those champions they just said. The Graves, Kindred, the Lilia, as well as stuff like the Nidalee. Iconic, same exact thing, just a little bit more diverse towards the tankier side of things, towards the champions that are going to provide more support when it comes to the crowd control territory. So it's definitely going to be an interesting jungle matchup between Effectrix and Iconic.
That to me is actually the key matchup that you got here tonight. Where I
Mhm.
can't really speak so much to what Cavell or Cavalry in this particular sense. I'm going to call him Cavalry at least once, so I'm going to get that out of the way now. Or how CP Freeze, Kanaki, and Dog can do in that bottom side. Can't speak to that. I watched enough Infectrix to know what it is that he can do, and I've watched enough Iconic to know what he can do, and I know that this is going to be a matchup fueled with fireworks, especially if we're going to get something like the Kindred matchup. I know Infectrix plays that quite a bit, not as much by Iconic anymore, but we've seen that sprout up at least in play-ins as a response to things like the Graves, the Nidalee, and other sorts of champions, so long as it's not just getting bullied out by another jungler.
And then looking into the overlap when it comes to the pools altogether, one of the most contested lanes to me is going to be the ADC pool. Both of these teams really prioritize it when it comes to the first round of the draft, and that's to be honest, that's overall the meta as a whole. Just try and get your ADC pick before it gets banned out in the second half of the draft. And for Maryville, that is going to be their stronger side of the map. I mean, we've seen it with Value and Shady, their positioning and how they deal with losing matchups. It's something you're going to have to keep a close eye on in this next part of the draft when they do start going for the head-to-head.
Now, I'm interested actually, maybe my producer can give me some light on this of whether Samira is actually available this week. I don't expect to see it. She is enabled this week. I
Mhm.
don't expect it because I've seen a lot of Samira and she's a very strong champion, but to me, she looks a lot like Katarina in the fact that in order to play her properly, you have to give a whole team's worth of setup towards it. And it's just not like as
Mhm.
strong as the champion is, I don't know that any team has been able to come up stylistically or compositionally the kinds of things necessary in order to make it work outside of just like letting somebody hard flex their skill on Samira over top of somebody else. And I don't think that anybody's gotten enough games for that yet. So I don't expect the Samira today, but certainly I really want the champion to come in. She's exciting. She's volatile. She's strong. It's going to be exciting when she finds her way into the meta, if she finds her way into the meta.
After seeing all the Reddit flame and all the hate that's been going around Samira and kind of new champs, I'm kind of afraid to see her get played. I'm hoping she does finally meet that good base level, that equilibrium around the 50% win rate mark. Because oh god, some of her win rates very early on. I believe she had like 49 to 51 on
Mhm.
day 2. And usually there's a discrepancy of about 10% higher that a champion is supposed to be. So it was kind of wild to see Samir day 1. Um, yeah, it's an interesting pick to see if it will go through. I do highly doubt it because teams do need a bit of time to be able to work it into their strategy, to work it into their draft, and to find the strengths and weaknesses of this champ. So,
Mhm.
yeah, interesting talk to really start bringing the Samira up, and a scary one at that.
That it is. And you can talk about the AD pool more. Something I want to see is like Twitch. I love Twitch. Twitch is exciting. You've seen it at the World Tournament pulled out.
Hmm.
Most of the meta
Gadget.
ADCs that like countered it are like gone. Pretty much it was like Caitlyn, who's nerfed, so you can play the matchup, and then Callista, who for some reason just is getting permabanned by any team or just like getting picked. Bring me Twitch, man. I want to see more Twitch. It's one of my favorite champions. It hasn't been around for so long.
Yeah, you see how devastating Twitch can be sometimes. I mean, you get Twitch with Press the Attack with Blade of the Rune King, and the damage is just so front loaded. You get a nasty burst on that Twitch, and that's why you can see assassination attempts when champs like Silas are supposed to hunt down Twitch, but Twitch is actually doing the hunting this time.
And that's always the fun part of it is watching an ADC go invisible and then like hunt someone down. Especially you pair it with the Rakan, you get such long range engage. You put a Shen on top of it. Now you got a submarine angle. Such fun things that you can do with a Twitch. Again, I don't know how much these teams have practiced something like that. I don't know whether it's going to come out, but it's certainly one of my favorite champions to watch right now. And so I'm here cheering for the Samira Twitch match in
Mhm.
the bottom lane, even though we're probably not going to. We're probably going to end up with like Ash Caitlyn like most of the time anyway.
I mean, again, Maryville did reschedule their last
Mhm,
week's match, so we have no real sample on how they're going to do in this stage of UPL, other than just well, Maryville's real good, so they should do good.
mhm.
On the other side, we have ANEW Dawn, who did have their match against Dark Allegiance. We talked about that a little bit more earlier, so we were able to see like some of the picks that are going to go through. Cavell, for example, puts a lot of priority onto that Camille, both in solo queue and competitive. It's one of the biggest champs for him to get into his hand, and meanwhile, King Georgie, for example, was prioritizing Jinx and MF. That might be the reason why they decided to switch here and bring in Dog to step away from just the auto attack ADCs, get into something like, I don't know, maybe even the Aphelios, pull out other things within that champion pool.
It's possible that they want to flex their champion pool just a little bit. I know the Camille is,
Mhm.
is actually rather strong right now to the point where it's even capable of being blind picked. I wouldn't be shocked if both of these top laners want to go to that. And so this might come down to a game of not who gets Camille, but what is the response to Camille if you're Niles, or what is the response to
Mhm.
Camille if you're Cavalry. Simply because of the fact that I expect both these top laners to want high priority on that. We could even potentially see it as early as like R1, R2, or B2, B3, something like that, very, very
Mhm.
quickly in the draft, just because of how easily flexible the champion is.
Yeah, but you can get some counter pick on that. I mean, we saw that with the new Dawn versus Dark Allegiance. ANEW were able to draft the Camille quite early, and from there it was just downhill. But whenever they were able to get it more towards the counter pick, whenever they get it towards the late stages of the draft, that's when you would see things start to change for ANEW. That's when you see their gold lead spike up much more once you get towards that split pushing phase, and Camille becomes that real threat.
She does. And I'm interested in other things that will come through as we get into the draft.
Mhm.
That'll be starting pretty quickly here. Again, I actually was interested in looking at Kanaki because it looks like he's actually stepping into the ADC role on Dog's going to be stepping into support. Both of us actually had assumed that Dog was going to be the ADC, if I recall, because that's where I recognize the position from. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong about that. Yeah, I know Dog. Upon looking, at least a little bit of investigation on my part, shows the Rakan again, Twitch for Khan. Maybe it's on the table a little bit, but more likely, things like things like the Kaisa, things like the Jin, all really, really good here for what looks like Kanaki. And again, I don't know much about these two because they seem relatively new to the squad, but maybe we'll get some good picks coming in here from other spots.
Yeah, you never really know. I mean, as I said, ANEW did play. There's some scouting to be done. Maybe Georgie and Duck, them being taken out, Conky Dog in. It puts a lot more mystery onto what the draft's going to be as to how the lane's going to play. You don't have that heads up that you normally have by being able to scout out a game ahead.
You don't. And maybe that's what they're trying to do here is a new dawn. They
Mhm.
know just how strong of an opponent Maryville is into what they're kind of staring down the barrel of an opponent that's going to be very, very tough to tackle here. And maybe their thought process is if we bring in a couple of new players, a couple of people who bring a different angle to the game, maybe we can rattle off a couple of wins because it is a best of three. It only takes two wins. One good sucker punch could really just cement you a very quick win over them, drop everybody's stock prices a little bit. I know everybody's hoping that that's not the case a little bit here.
And this This is really a high value matchup. We were talking about it a little bit at the start. Before we get into that, sorry for the delay. We're just waiting for Maryville's coach right now. Once he gets in here, we'll get that draft underway. But yeah, as I was saying, this is a very high value match. Like when it comes to this group, these are the two teams that pop out the most. So winning this match really does mean a lot this early in the season. Of course, it's a round robin. They're going to go at it again. But just to get that win, just to get that head start, considering that is your major competition, this puts so much value, especially for ANEW Dawn, a team that needs to perform early, that needs to get that cohesion early.
See how they're capable of getting that one because again they are playing a rough kind of they're playing a rough team here, and this
Mhm.
is a team that's bringing in two new players. We got to see what they did last week, and sometimes that's what questions me here is yeah, you might be getting an angle of like okay, Kanaki is new and Dog is new, so it's tougher to draft around those kinds of players. Um, Not an idea of what it is that they'd be doing. But then, of course, you kind of ruin team synergy. So I don't know if they've been scrimming with these players. I don't know what exactly they're doing. But as you said, it's really important that they come out and they can show their team play to some extent like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And then I do want to take a look back at the matchups though, because I really want to know where these strong points are going to be for each team. Um, when it comes to going to Maryville, it's an all-around strong team. It's a hard team to have to draft against, to have to play against, to have to set up lanes against. Where do you personally think ANEW really focus their draft? And for me personally, I do feel like it's going to be around Freeze because he's the most consistent player.
I'd agree with that. I think CP Freeze is an exceptionally good player, and I think
Mhm.
it's not to say that Wolfie is the weak link on the team, but I think that the strength of Maryville is not necessarily to play directly through mid lane, and so potentially that's a point in which a new drawn can try to press if they try to capture that mid jungle duo pressure, take over the control of the river and the rest of the map. Potentially from that position, they can get CP Freeze into an advantageous position, start to control the rest of the map like that. And actually, Maryville they take one of the best champions for that off the board almost immediately in the LeBlanc.
Mhm. Yeah, so waiting for this draft to go through, one of the focuses we were talking about was going to be the Camille, and the Camille will get bound away by Maryville. Not even going to risk that. Not even going to give a Cavell a chance to get that on the return rotation. So that's already getting bound away. I am expecting a little bit more towards the ADC pool. It's kind of become the norm to focus that down, but we'll definitely see how this draft goes and where the focus is going to be.
I wouldn't expect again. We see a couple of different dive champions. They want to take away a
Hmm.
lot of the pressure that's going to be put through Freeze, and so it's not shocking to see LeBlanc taken away. Twisted Fate has been Wolfie's like primary champion that he's been playing as of late, and
Hmm.
the 5 movement speed actually hit him decently. I know it's a meme to say like all 5 movement speed nerf. It did hit him. It just didn't hit him that hard.
Hmm. And already more pounds coming through, and yeah, it's just going down to that pressure. LeBlanc, TF, Lilia, very high pressure, early tempo champions. Caitlyn getting bound away as well. And, we're not going to see the memes of my most hated lane, which is Caitlyn Lux. Definitely going to take that away. Keep it away, please. And first pick will go over to Maryville.
I don't know, over the summer when they were playing in the scouting ground circuit, Graves was always their first grab. There's still a Hecarim available and there's still a Nidalee available. Nidalee tends to be held as a counter pick. So if they want to grab jungle, this would be the Graves pick likely coming through. And then the response can actually be the Nidalee from Infectrix if he plays something like that. I know Lee Sin's also been somewhat of a grab. Kindred has been a
Mhm.
little bit of a counter. I know Infectrix plays a lot of the Kindred, and so I wouldn't be shocked to see that one come through. They could also simply prioritize bot lane if they want to grab that Recon alongside it. You could go Twitch, you could go plenty of other ADCs, things like the Ezreal, the Ashe, plenty of different blind picks,
Mhm.
especially with Caitlyn taken off the board.
Yeah, so already picking up that ADC early, it's going to be the Ezreal. You do get that flexibility of having a safe lane that can farm quite well, even under pressure. And it also enables you to potentially take up more of a roam support as well, to
Mhm.
free up that lane, leave Ezreal by himself, start terrorizing those other lanes. As the next pick is going to be that Kindred you were talking about. Definitely one of the more popular jungle picks as we head into the season.
That it is. And again, specifically in plans, we've seen that as straight up the counter to the likes of the Graves. And
Mhm.
in that top lane position, there's no Lucian available, there's no Camille available. And as it turns out, Maryville just immediately goes to the Ornn. I know a lot of people don't think of Niles as really the Ornn player, perchance, but I know specifically it's one of the champions he went back to time and time again during SGC and even during the remainder of the season. So not shocking to see them go to something like this Ornn for him in that top side as a blind pick.
And it's such a good pick overall. I mean, like, you can't really go wrong going the Ornn pick. Next pick to come in is going to be the Orianna, so that's getting locked in. You're getting more of that team fight presence. Orianna been definitely quite a strong champion. Now going over to New Dawn. The picks to come out for them, still waiting to see that hovered. I know when it comes to Freeze, even though he plays a lot of snowbally champions in solo queue, he loves to get scalers, and that's exactly what this is when it comes to competitive. The Azir getting locked in for Freeze.
Yeah, looking at the champion that Azir for a while was just kind of a response to some of the meta mid laners, and that never really changed. I know some of the nerfs was a little bit of a skirmishing power taken away. If he still wants to go to the Comet, that's still got the same kind of punch. Although I think at this point, given everything that got nerfed in like the Akali, the Lucian, the Twisted Fate, the Azir, everything has now fallen below Orianna in terms of preference. And we saw that at
Mhm.
Worlds as well, where now she's sitting with like a really high presence. I think highest presence at Worlds, tied with 3 other champions, and a 90% win rate. Like you can't doubt those statistics.
Yeah, and I mean, with these, more magey mid laners, thank goodness, magey mid laners. I don't want to see no Lucian mid lane again.
No.
With these more magey mid laners, you are getting a return to kind of previous metas, and I do think a lot of this is indicative of the jungle changes. You're getting junglers who are less potent at getting very, very strong ganks in who are just all about damage. And that is when Orianna and Azir can really start to show. Azir shows up regardless of anything, but champions like Orianna, who are very gank susceptible, can show up and thrive.
I don't like Braum in this situation, but Braum would be a decent counter. Okay, they actually just go to Sylas, and they're a very damage-heavy team now, where you've got the Sylas, the Azir, the Kindred, and the Ezreal, which makes me think Braum would be a grab because that's more CC, that's more front-loaded kind of defense, and especially at Maryville, they've set up a fantastic team fight in like the Ornn with the Orianna, and now you've even got the Misfortune thrown in there. Put in a little bit more CC in your support role. Nautilus is perfect. That's what was stock standard at S tier at the beginning of the season with the Misfortune Nautilus, and now you've got a fantastic team fight. I think Braum fits in with the new Dawn almost perfectly.
Oh, fantastic team fight. That's a disgusting team fight to have to go against, especially once we get towards neutral objectives. If you're fighting Maryville around there on a 5v5, good luck getting the Call of the Forge God, the depth charge, as well as the bullet time. Hovering the Alistair for the time being. Still want to see if that's going to switch over to the Braum. No, switching over to the Brown. I think he just might be playing with us a little bit. But yeah, Braum will be locked in. It's definitely going to provide a very safe lane over on the bot side.
Nothing too shocking about that. Now, I'm not a fan of Ezreal Braum lane just because not because of the synergy, but because I don't think the champions themselves actually have too much strength, and Misfortune Nautilus are higher in that regard. In fact, all of a New Dawn is kind of a rough go of it just because they have okay lane and okay synergy. But again, I'm really terrified when teams draft this little tankiness, this little ability to soak damage. Outside of that Kindred ultimate, you're going to be in some rough straits if you get into straight on 5-on-5s.
Yeah, that being said, they do have a comp that can delay out some of these fights. Emperor's Divide and the Glacial Fissure do a lot when it comes to team fights and protecting ADCs such as Kanki and your mid laner, of course, Freeze. But that being said, though, I really do echo your thoughts. There's not much to really hold that front line. You're really just banking on the Lamps Respite from Advetrix to kind of pseudo make up for some of that loss of tankiness.
And you've got good, consistent fighting, so if you're able to keep people alive long enough, there's actually potential for you to take that because Azir has more than enough consistent damage. So you buy 5 seconds with Kindred Ultimate. That's 5 seconds that Azir gets to pump out Soldier DPS. It's 5 seconds Ezreal gets to pump out Qs and auto attacks and things of that sort. And 5 seconds for Sylas and Braum to actually get into the backline, be able to actually cause some havoc while that Kindred Ultimate is up. So I think there's this fine line to be played where there's a lot of burst engage from the side of Maryville, and you have to play around the Kindred timer as a way to respond with damage to everything that Maryville can bring out.
Yeah, but on Maryville's side of the comp, I mean, for ANEW, one of the things they can work with is the fact that Maryville is a very R-dependent comp as well. I mean, the Shockwave, Call of the Forge God, we mentioned it earlier. These are great tools, but they are on a spicy cooldown. If they can play around that and disengage at the perfect time to stop some of those tools being utilized, then they have an opening to find a re-engage on a Maryville and actually take a team fight.
Not to mention their composition is like not particularly good when it comes to like accepting ganks, because like you go to top lane and Sylas has mobility, you're playing into an Ornn, like he doesn't have the most kind of directly accessible CC. Then you go mid lane and you're playing into Azir. Bot lane is a Braum Ezreal lane. You're never ganking a Braum Ezreal lane. So like Iconic doesn't have a lot of avenue to get his team ahead in terms of just pure lane ganks. I assume they're going to be looking for more skirmishes. If that's the case, this Sylas is going to be invaluable if you can get him out on the map. That ultimate cooldown reduction, especially level 11, level 16, when you get those upgrades, are going to be fantastic for him to try to take. And look at the ultimates he has. The Orianna, it's not great, but still a bullet time will absolutely ruin Maryville.
Oh, yeah, it'll absolutely do some great things for them. Still looking at ANEW as a whole, though, one of the things that does pop out in their draft is scaling. If they can get this towards a super late game and find those disengages we're talking about earlier, there's a lot of damage to be pumped out on ANEW Dawn.
It's very terrifying. Not to mention, they could play very forward. If Braum wants to jump forward, if Silence wants to jump forward, if you want to throw CP Freeze in and try to wall off a couple of people, there's some very aggressive tendencies that could be had, which you go back to like, okay, the Kindred can protect. Rather than playing responsively, you could play just hard aggression, let the Kindred save somebody who dives in too far, maybe takes a little bit too much damage. And at that point, maybe resources have been burnt from Maryville. And if you burned all those R's, as you said, it's an R-dependent comp. If they're gone, might be a New Dawn's game to play.
Oh yeah, most definitely will be. It's all about carefully playing that, but we gotta head to the Rift. Before we do, we're gonna throw it over to a quick little intermission right here. We got one of our sponsors we got to give a shout out to, and that's going to be Kono. If you're looking to take your game to the next level, it starts with your peripherals. From keyboards to keycaps, mice, and more, our friends over at Kono have you covered. Kono works with the world's best designers, inventors to really bring some of the best peripherals around. Kono have been huge supporters of us here at Upsurge and have made generous contributions to our prize pool. If you need to find a new keyboard, check out the Hex Gears X1 RGB low profile Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. You can use the discount code UpsurgeGG for 7% off your first order. For more information, head over to kono.store to check out all they have to offer. That is KONO.store. Kono, discover amazing products. We'll be right back with a matchup of Maryville versus ANEW. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Upsurge Premier League, week number 2, Maryville University A versus ANEW Dawn. Now, already hitting these riffs, you know, we have our expectations really set for this one. I definitely feel like for ANEW, it has to be about getting some sort of resistance against the early tempo that's going to come out from Maryville, because this is, again, a scaling comp. You can get that 0 online, you get some power going. If you survive these lanes, if you get towards that 30-minute mark without a huge deficit, this is a very strong comp to have to fight against.
That it is, and a couple of ways to circumvent that. Obviously, again, controlling the Graves, making sure he can't step into lanes is one fantastic way to do so. But another really good way, actually, specifically for this composition, is just to never stop skirmishing. You can continue fighting all of the time. In the early game, yes, the Orange got damaged, the Graves going to have damage, but Oriana and Graves, they have to get a couple of items. Misfortune needs a few items, isn't really just like super powered early. So when you've got so much damage here on the side of ANEW, you could maybe look for fights. Braum is one of the best early game champions just for setting things up, getting CC down onto other champions. You got to expect, if you're going to draft 4 damage dealers, that you got to go out and do damage like as fast as possible. It's a pretty sound logic, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the Oriana, you ever been hit by a level 2 Oriana? You just kind of giggle it off. It's kind of like a soft breeze. The command attack does. Look at that. Look at that. Just a little Gucci goo. So it definitely needs items before Oriana becomes big.
Now, that's also caveated by the fact that, like, that's a ball. If you ever auto-attack trade with Oriana early on, she just becomes this buff monster of, like, her first 3 autos come out, and you're like, why is half my health gone?
Yeah. You get that passive going, the on-hit attack damage. It's definitely very spicy. I used to love playing Orianna when I was learning League because she was really easy to last hit on back in the day.
I still can't figure out how to last hit, even with things that make it easier like that. But that's why we play support.
That's a smart move right there. Supporter jungle can't last hit. At least I can last hit against myself. Oh, level 2 engage here. Out comes the hook. It's going to land on the Kanki. Only getting a little bit of damage in. A lot of that negated thanks to the shield. So you're starting to see that early pressure Shady and Value are putting onto this lane. And as they should, it is an Ezreal lane. You do need some itemization for Ezreal to come online.
And this doesn't really stop anytime soon. There's another really good hook. It's not going to lead to too much. But again, this poking damage and a lot of the wave pressure that they're going to have with the Misfortune and the Nautilus over this Ezreal Braum. It's a safe lane, but they don't really have a lot of capital to work with during the laning phase unless Kindred shows up. So the best way to play this, they might look to cheat back here, try to get an early itemization advantage, then come back, eventually look for a dragon rotation here with Mr. Iconic in the jungle, which would be a fantastic way to express some of the pressure they have without necessarily needing to fight or go for something aggressive.
Yeah, and speaking of pressure, you're starting to see a lot of that coming out of Freeze early in this mid lane. Just getting control of this lane as he should. You just want to shove it in, keep Orianna from ever leaving that lane, and be able to just really open up the rift so you can get Infectrix to start making these bigger plays when it comes to counter jungling, especially when those marks start popping up.
Yeah, really unfortunate that the mark spawned on the bottom scuttle, so he loses the war of probability up against his opposition in Iconic. But still, it's not the biggest loss in the entire world. It's still just you'd rather have that if you're on the likes of the Kindred. You love having those marks early on. And that's a pretty free one, because typically first scuttle, unless the other team just has perma lane push, you should be able to get.
You should be.
You should.
And then it spawns on the wrong side. And just a sad boy hours.
And you cry. You cry.
And slowly just wait for the next spawn, as Infectress is going to do right now. Taking that first recall, no big action to come out of these ADCs early. And when I say ADCs, I definitely mean junglers, but both on the ADC champions. A little bit more harass coming over towards the mid lane on Wolf, almost taking him out in the process.
Yeah, the Comet Azir didn't actually get hit pretty much at all in terms of what it likes to do, because there was no Q damage nerf. There was no like auto attack W damage nerf. It was attack speed nerf. So damage over time goes down on Azir. But the reason why you pick Azir in a lot of these mage matchups is for the poke on his Q. You go like 3 levels Q with Comet. You can shove somebody out of lane with just a couple of spell casts and then position your soldiers better with it because you have lower cooldown with your Q. So you saw right there, just the ability and the range of the Azir to poke out the mage is why it's there. That wasn't nerfed. That wasn't changed at all.
And for Wolf, he was able to get his recall, and he got it at a good time, too. He picks up his Tear of the Goddess, which means he is going to be able to just sustain in this lane a lot more, be able to push back. But unfortunately, a DC does come through, so going to have to deal with that in the meanwhile, get those technical difficulties out the way. But yeah, the recall went through. He's got his Tear of the Goddess. He can sustain in this lane a little bit more against Freeze, but it's still going to be a challenge.
And you're keeping your eyes down towards this bottom side where you have the Cole advantage over top of the Ezreal, which doesn't mean too much. But again, Kenki and Dog are looking for some sort of reset, and Infectrix is down here for the same reason. To not to try to gank, because you're not ganking this Misfortune and this Nautilus given where you're positioning from as you're this Kindred. Instead, you're just looking to help reset the lane of the Ezreal and the Braum to make sure they can get a proper back timing, which is why Iconic being down here is a big deal, because they could either A, stop that process and keep this lane up where you have the itemization advantage, or again, you can transfer to that very early dragon and you're not going to have Ezreal and Braum on the same itemization curve.
Yeah, and now we're just waiting for this really, because the battle lines are drawn. I mean, even though it is Ezreal Braum does bring a surprising amount to the fight with just the Winner's Bite alone, that passive, the concussive blows. It does a lot of damage if you're able to proc it and just lock someone down. And given that it is a Graves here, it is an MF here, if you do lock down the right champion, there's limited mobility on those champs.
Especially when the counterparts for your engage are actually 2 more ADCs, in that you have the Kindred and you have the Ezreal who can apply a Q. So like 1 auto from Kindred, 1 auto from Ezreal, and 1 Q from Ezreal. That's 3 more procs right there. That's an insta-stun onto anybody you auto-attack or Q, which is immediately phenomenal to set up. But again, you do still have the Nautilus for a little bit of bouncing capability, and you have an ADC. You got the blind from Graves, so you can stop a little bit of that. I don't expect much aggression here. Good thing is, again, Wolfie is actually forcing out Azir to back right now after the tier purchase. And yes, he has teleport, but he's going to have to manage his Wayne before going down to Dragon. This should be a pretty free Dragon from the side of Maryville, so long as nothing goes wrong in this next 15 to 20 seconds.
Well, you see, that's where you just jinxed it. We know something's gonna go horribly wrong. Let's just start doing our predictions right now. Once this unpause happens, what's the play that's gonna happen? What's the first move?
I'm thinking that it's Cavalry just insta solo kills Niles and then teleports bot lane under tower, and it's just a 5-man dive down there, something along that. Because technically, if they could get a ward in the right position, I guess CP Freeze could show up to that bot side and use the range of the Azir to just poke away at these two when they're stuck underneath the tower. Because I mean, Ezreal's got enough range, and then the Azir's got enough range. You would be afraid of Azir going down to like a 3-man stack on the bot side. But again, if Cavalry is able to free himself, you could look for that. So if I had to guess something wild to go on, a 5-man dive isn't completely out of this world, I suppose.
All right, I'm gonna be less wild about it. I'm gonna say Shady is just gonna go for the hook on Dog for some reason. He's just gonna go for the hook on Dog. He's gonna get insta-stunned, and then he's gonna die. But for some reason, Maryville are still gonna turn it around and win. They're just gonna out-damage him. Oh, okay, we're back to live. Let's see if it happens. I don't know. I just wanted the guesses. I wanted the bets for the sake of the memes.
Yeah,
and they're just walking away now. Oh, I called it! Shady win it! He went on Kanki! First blood goes down. Shady's going to be able to pick it up. A great hook flash to come through. Looking to find Dog as well. Dog able to flash, get under the tower. Infectrix wants to whop away and get that hop, skip, jump to safety as well. The roam coming in from Wolf, all meanwhile with a lot of pressure going towards that top side. But first blood, nonetheless, to Maryville.
And you're looking for the reset. If you're the Ezreal and the Braum, they knew exactly that was the case. So instead of sitting back and collecting their mild amount of farm, instead it is Value and Shady walking past their wave and getting aggression into these two. They end up getting a couple of kills on that bottom side, burning a ton of summoner spells, and even in the river, more of a fight happening, but a TP to support this.
Yeah, that smoke screen does a lot of work right there for Iconic. It was right in the choke. They're unable to get more damage in, and this is going to cause a collapse onto Infectrix, who's just one auto away. Niles will zoom right through him. Iconic is going to look to follow his teammate to the respawn as Freeze will pick it up. He's trying to find the execute. Not going to get it. He will be able to walk away. He's underneath the tower, doesn't even need the execute. He will be able to walk his way back home.
Should be able to get out of this situation. Ornn does have kind of an angle if he tries to get a little too greedy with it, but he's not going to. Instead, he's going to walk out of that one. It was kind of a tumultuous situation to start with, down in that bottom jungle where I don't think anybody was really prepared for what was going to happen, but still really nice to be able to pull that kill away from Freeze. And again, the distraction was there. They had priority in that bottom side where they forced Braum's back with no itemization. Had they not gone for something aggressive, again, the Dragon would have been free to just grab away for the side of Maryville. So I can actually really appreciate that CP Freeze, with some pretty crazy antics, actually ends up not only getting a kill and getting out, but denies the play from Maryville on bottom side.
Yeah, and I definitely have to see that Call of the Forge God again. I don't know if it was like canceled by Dog or something, but that should have gone through. That would have been a kill. That was enough damage. He only had about 50 health on Freeze. Slight breeze would have took him down, but he's still alive and somehow keeping ANEW alive with it.
I think what happened was Niles just thought he was going to die to a tower shot, and so instead of throwing it at Freeze, he threw it at the other opponent just to make sure they could confirm that kill as well, thinking they'd get two. Because of that, he just completely was he just misjudged the amount of damage or whether the tower was going to aggro at that point. Is all that happened.
So Freeze gets away, he gets a kill. He's liking the way that play went through. Meanwhile, on the bot side, I have noticed this a lot from Shady. He's going for those max range hooks whenever he can find a way around those minions. They're really adding the pressure down onto this bot side. And there you see it again. Hook goes through, looking to find Dog, putting out the Make It Rain to get the slow in, and just the harassment constantly onto Dog.
I said it before, I'll say it again. I feel like Shady playing Hook Champions is not throwing skill shots. He's throwing targeted. There's another one.
Here comes the bullet time. Value will get the kill onto Dog. Those hooks for days coming out of Shady.
My word, it's just too easy, man. He's just sitting there, and Braum, your only opportunity as the Braum is to try to jump away from the hook if you have no boots or mobility to work with. And in this case, he threw the shield too late, just trying to block off the MF ultimate, and they're in front of their tower still proxying, and you think about what's happening on the map. They had priority bot side, they grabbed the Dragon. Rift Herald should be traded away here for Infectrix, who's trying to find something on the other side of the map, but right now, this Misfortune lane is just demolishing the Ezreal. It's just supposed to be a safe lane, and they're still getting killed in that bot side.
Ooh, Emperor's Divide comes out, but a great flash to come out of Wolf in time. The response will be the Shockwave. More damage to come through as Freeze gets in those autos, but it's all a bait to try and pull him in towards Infectrix. Not going to take the bait, though. Wolf instead going to back off, start whacking away at the minions at the tower. Backup is coming, and it's going to be Iconic over towards the mid lane. 2 versus 2 in the mid lane. No one really willing to cross that battle line.
They are not. Making sure to hover his lane is iconic because he knew there was potential for that since they knew that Infectrix had taken the Rift Herald earlier. Another hook onto the Braum, though. The ultimate out as well.
Yeah, they're going after Dog once again. Shady has just been terrorizing this guy, and Niles terrorizing Cavell. All meanwhile in the top lane, all while under his tower. That was absolutely disgusting.
Okay, just to make a point of this really quickly, what in the world is that itemization? What in the world did Niles build to make sure that this comes through? He is a catalyst of Eons with an executioner. He's gonna get punished. Thank you, Infectrix. Punish this man who deserved it for build. That is the most sinful thing I've ever seen to secure a solo kill in the side lane is Ornn in my life.
Niles doesn't care. Niles 1v9. He will build whatever he wants as long as it gets him the kill. And that's what you're seeing right now. 2-1-0 Niles over on that top side. Doesn't matter if he's trolling, he's winning at the same time.
They are letting the Kindred kind of operate around the map as much as he wants. And again, we did identify that Infectrix could be a very good win condition from the side of ANEW. He's a very talented player. You saw him on that Polaris squad that made it to playoffs once again in Scouting Ground circuit. And so allowing him to run free on the map is a little bit curious for me. I know they haven't had much response. They are getting what they need to get done well. About 3,000 gold leads still, but very Infectrix at least doing a good job of making this Kindred pick work to the best of his ability so far.
Yeah, and we got to get a replay of what we just witnessed right there, because some of these plays, especially with Niles, have just been absolutely wild so far, Rebel.
That they have, and you see the play here. Yeah, Cavelli, it looks like he was just trying to clear the wave. He thought maybe this would do more damage and overstepped against Niles, who of course has this executioner, so there's no real return damage. Actually, pretty much just CC'd him to death, and a nice flash at the very end gets him over the wall outside the third range. It's pretty. That's a textbook Niles kill right there.
Yeah, meanwhile, Wolf, using the shockwave, gets caught by the Emperor's Divide. Is this going to be the end for him? Iconic able to squeeze in that kill onto Freeze, but not before Freeze takes down Wolf. All meanwhile on the top side, Niles trying to run away from Infectrix, who's going to use his flash. The slows are going in. The flash is going to be burnt for not too much as Infectrix grabs the kill on the Niles.
They put a little bit of pressure into the mid lane here, and they're able to pick up something and in a trade of 1-for-1. And again, Niles now starts to get bullied off a little bit more since he pushes up so often. It's pretty easy to try to find ganks into him, and Infectrix with red buff is enough to get him down. Now, this should get a couple plates. I actually don't know if they can just say, yeah, especially with TP being thrown here, it looks like by Wolfie, that they should be able to deny that top lane tower from getting any more than just the 2 plates they confirmed. And all this is just buying time for this bottom lane to do more work, where this Misfortune and this Nautilus are continuing to bully out this Ezreal and Braum. Braum is still level 5, hasn't even hit the level 6 yet, let alone the gold discrepancy of 2,000 between the ADCs right now. And I feel like ANEW just isn't quite grasping what's happening on the bottom side, and if they did, they would be playing with a little more urgency elsewhere.
I mean, just look at the itemization out of value right now. He's got the BF sword, he's got a long sword. Even with the call on top of that you said earlier, it's rough to deal with because you got to always remember to position well against an MF. That double up hits you. It's one of the most disgusting things to get smacked by, especially with this much AD built.
100%. You think about, I can only describe an MF like a double up Q that actually kills a minion in one word, and I think that's youch. It's the only word you can use to describe when you see that kind of thing. Also, if you actually have paid attention to any of the preseason itemization, the new Essence Reaver, double up with the new Essence Reaver is going to be absolutely mean, man. It's going to do so much damage.
Oh yeah, just waiting for that spice. Just waiting for my misery in the bot lane to continue, my friend.
His bonus damage everywhere. It's going to be fun preseason for sure.
Yeah, all meanwhile on the bot side, there's only one more plate left for Value to take. They've dominated this bot side of the map without losing a plate of their own. It's just been complete conquering towards the bot.
And you consider what's happening on the rest of the map where, like, mid lane, you're not having this massive advantage for Freeze despite 2 kills. Another hook by Shady won't amount to much because they are under tower, but it pushes them off this wave enough to probably confirm this tower. So that's first tower and all the plates off for this MF. That's huge. It does unlock them as well for the rest of the map. The Rift Herald will be up in about a minute, and all they really have to do is shove out this wave, wait for the next wave to crash as well, and that's 2 full waves. Should take about 20-30 seconds or something for the Ezreal and the Braum to fully rotate. So you have priority in top river for the next Rift Herald if you want it.
And not only that, with that tower going down and all those plays cashed in, that's a 2.5 gold lead on your ADC alone versus Kanki. Like, that's insane at 13 minutes. That we're almost nearing a whole item as the hook goes in, looking to find it onto Freeze. Freeze gets brought in by the shockwave, whacked down by Shady. A great little kill going on into the mid lane to open up more pressure for ANEW to have to deal with.
And you got to expect something like that because, Shady, the two opportunities were either A, Shady's backing and he's going to run up mid lane, or he's just going to run to mid lane immediately, and CP Freeze just got caught sleeping a little bit there. And this is the rotation you're looking for from the side of Maryville. They have no Orianna ultimate, but they're going to completely capture entire topside river when this Rift Herald spawns. So that's another objective they're going to be claiming off the map, more gold in their pockets. And at the moment, I think CP Freeze can't quite get back in time to contest it necessarily. But there will be more time bought here by Maryville, just shoving out their waves, making sure they do this right. So maybe some contention could come out, although Kindred's on bottom side, so I doubt it.
And if you're not winning the skirmishes at this stage of the game for ANEW, you are definitely in a lot of trouble, especially considering a lot of these deaths are going on to Freeze. He's your late game contingency plan right there. Azir in the late game is brutal. And also what's brutal is this gank onto Infectress. This jungle does not belong to him. The Lampster Spite only going to delay the inevitable at this rate, able to get a few more autos in, but he goes down to Niles.
What he does is, as they continue to solo on the top side of the map, best case scenario here, Cavalery might actually get a chance, and the TP to the top side might actually turn this into a 3v1 against Cavalery. That's the actual Ornn ultimate.
Oh, call the Forge God for Call the Forge God as the bullet time goes out. Cavell will be able to get out of the range in time and stay alive at the cost of his flash.
And with the take of the Rift Herald by Iconic, that means that all they have to do is wait for this next wave, and all they're going to have to do is drop this Rift Herald top. That's going to be another tower taken, while, again, there's no aggression into the mid lane. There's no real aggression to the bottom side of the map. They haven't been able to find anything. They're just completely getting dominated by the side of Maryville here. ANEW looks a little bit lost on the map. Infectrix tried to find something with counter-jungling done on the opposite side, knowing that the Rift Herald was going to come through. But because none of his lanes on bottom or mid actually had priority, they just simply walk in, kill him, and take both at the same time.
Yeah, and now you see all that pressure that's going on towards the top side. They're able to take that tower. Both outer for top and bottom will go down. That will just leave the mid to be focused down. And this map really does belong to Maryville this early in the game. They've been stomping it when it comes to their macro control.
They do. And they combine that with the fact that they've got CS leads at pretty much every single role. They're winning every fight across the map. They have this massive gold lead, and especially the 2 dragon advantage that they're currently hoisting over top of their opposition. It makes me curious if the late game is ever actually going to come here from the side of ANEW. We talked about them being able to skirmish, being able to duel, but they haven't been able to find the outnumbers necessary to make that happen.
You can see right here, Shady and Dog. They've met one too many times. Shady, please, no more hooks onto the dog. Leave this guy alone. He doesn't need a leash. Emperor's Divide goes out onto Niles, really starting to fear the damage that this Ornn can put out. But now Shady, once again, he sees Dog. He wants it, but Dog's going to hop over the wall. Value getting hit by the Winner's Bite. Engage, not going to work out for Maryville this time, but they do get some priority on this mid lane.
A little bit strange there about what had happened. In fact, actually, because they didn't drop Rift Herald on the top side because the damage was so far done, they burned a couple of resources here and there. CP Freeze won't be around in mid lane, so that should just be mid tower now taken. So the entire ring of inner or outer towers here for the side of ANEW has been broken as they continue to set up for the remainder. Cavalery looking for something on the Wolfie.
Yeah, really trying for this right here. Out comes the smokescreen. Wolf is going to be able to stay alive. There's just not enough damage onto Cavell as of the moment, and a very, very greedy play, honestly, to just straight up go for that kill. I don't know if he felt like he was outright caught by Wolf and could not escape, but definitely not the play to make at this stage of the game.
It feels like they are expecting Maryville to commit so many resources into things. So, like, they drop Rift Herald mid, and they're like, okay, they're going to commit 3 members to mid lane. I can look for this solo kill in the opposite jungle. Oh, they're committing 3 to 4 members to Rift Herald. I can go counter jungle red. And Maryville's like, we know you're there because of warding or because we know where you've gone. We're going to go chase you and take the other thing because how are you going to contest us at both? And ANEW simply has not had an answer to either of those questions.
Yeah, not an answer at all. Let's see if they could find it sometime soon, because 30 seconds till Cloud Drake spawns, and that will put Maryville at Drake Point, and that's going to be a terrifying win condition to have to go against a team that does so well in neutral objectives, does so well in team fights, does so well in macro, and you need to get themselves out of this hole very quickly, and I'm not quite sure how they do it.
Especially now, we talked about Value being one of the best positioning ADCs, one of the kind of like the big names of the team after having performed at Twitch Rivals. And he's on that double BF sword like crit itemization that's going to make that ultimate do ridiculous damage over the Ezreal, who's on like basically 1.5 items, but they're relatively cheap items to start with. And you have to play into what it is that they're looking for to do on Maryville's side in those big team fights. I really don't think there's a great way to try to contest for this third dragon if it's set up the same way Maryville's been looking the rest of the game.
Ooh, over the wall, going after Wolf. Wolf does the shockwave, pulls them both back. Infectrix under the tower, trying to take the fight. Lamb's Respite's going to go out. Wolf really thinking about taking this, puts the ball out. Infectrix will be able to hop out. Shady walks up and gets the flash up, locking him down. Make it rain, bring the pain. Value will score the kill.
Oh my goodness. And once again, they do the exact same thing where Cavalry, they're looking at Infectrix, they look to the top side of the map. They're like, okay, Orianna's on her own. Everybody else is at Dragon. There's no way we get punished for this. And then it's just Iconic taking Dragon, the rotation immediately from Value and Shady to help save the mid laner, who had already made an astonishing outplay to make sure that he didn't lose his life in ANEW. Again, their attempted plays to grasp at something on the opposite side of the map have just led to absolutely nothing, and have led also to Maryville just continuing to collect more resources off the back of their already solid macro play. It's looking very, very heavily one-sided at this point.
And Rebel, do you think ANEW have pretty much just given up at this point? Because they're not fighting over neutrals. They're not trying to stop these win conditions that Maryville are putting up. They've surrendered every Drake. They've made plays away from where the neutrals are. I have so many questions for the way ANEW are playing this from behind.
It's more so, I think they know that they're never really going to be able to find, oh, that's tragic, because Infectrix won't be able to make it over the wall. Okay, they got the kill onto Kindred. I really thought maybe he was going to get stuck there, not able to find that kill. But either way, I think what it is that ANEW, they simply know that they're not going to win around a neutral objective because of this team fight that's capable of being brought out by Maryville. And so instead, they're trying to they're going for picks. They're going for little shutdowns here and there to try to climb climb back up the gold ladder just a little bit so they can contest eventually. But because all those plays get shut down also, they have nothing to work with. And at this point, if it were me out there, it would be very disheartening to play this game, because you're not only not getting to play the game, but you're just losing everything. Ouch.
Not getting to play the game, indeed. Freeze, yeah.
Perfect.
I'm going to put a freeze on his momentum right there. 2-3-0. It was looking kind of strong earlier on, but now it's just all completely falling apart because this momentum is just too high from Maryville. You were talking about the double BF sword. How about a third one coming out from Value as he heads towards his next item?
I wonder what that's going to be. I would have to think like maybe Bloodthirster is the next thing that you would go for if you just want to purely auto-attack his way through. But that seems... that's just a super hard snowball item just for additional AD when you hit people, more so than it is for like legitimate build. If you wanted that ultimate to hit really hard, he could go into like a Mortal Reminder or something along those lines. But at this point, I don't think it really matters what he builds because he's just so far ahead. Ezreal only just now got to the 2-item spike. He's sitting 4,000 gold down on Ezreal. Like that, the Ezreal's not going to do damage compared to this MF anytime soon.
I mean, you're not saying you don't want the MF to be a sinner and go for the Black Cleaver? You see Infectrix too is sinning right there.
That is true. Okay. Also, Nile has now gotten onto Ornn itemization, so that's fantastic news for the side of ANEW, where this gold lead is now just going to continue to compound even higher. And like I said, it's already been looking rough from the side of ANEW against the opposition who's leading them so much. But now they have to force a fight around a neutral objective. Otherwise, they either lose Baron or they lose Elder Soul. This Ornn itemization's coming, and their ADC's already strong. This is... like, to call a game at this point would be... I wouldn't say wrong, but maybe just, like, preemptive. That's why I'm not doing it yet.
Yeah, we're like 85% there. So
yeah.
The teleport comes in, looking to get the engage onto Cavell, who flashes over the wall to stay safe, but Value is here. Here comes the bullet time. Call the Forge God will be used, but all for naught as Value just takes him down with one press of R.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how he got him with that. That's so much damage that he was just barely in it for more than a couple of seconds. He just gets absolutely shredded. Now even Kindred, this is just Shady. There's no one around. He's 1v1ing in Tetris.
Shady does not care. He's got his backup coming pretty soon. Teleport's coming out. They're just playing with their food. Flash over the wall. Iconic. He's not going to find it just yet. Misses the collateral damage. No kills to come out. Infectrix on the run. Conky's on the run. And now Dog's on the run, getting hooked by Shady once again. Out comes the leash. Dog's going to sacrifice himself for his jungler, but Niles wants to make sure it's going to be a 2-for-1 deal. Unstoppable is Niles as he picks up the double kill.
And that will be what is likely the end of the game, because I think at this point it's just going to be a free Baron here with no Infectrix up for the remainder. It's them getting picked apart across the map. They have no real safe haven. They have no plays that can be made. And even when they attempt to make aggressive plays or make plays that will get them a little bit more gold in their pockets, they haven't been able to make those work whatsoever either, which is kind of just tragic from the side of ANEW, that it's felt like they've just not got anything. Okay, that was maybe a last-ditch steal that might have saved them, but that's about it.
Yeah, that was all they were really looking for right here as Freeze over the wall. He's really trying for it. It looked fancy, but it ultimately results in a gray screen. More and more to Maryville.
I was actually more afraid that they were going to push him into, or he was going to push them into Ezreal, and then Ezreal was going to die because of it. I was terrified that was going to happen. But yeah, I think it just needs to be wrapped up with a bow at this point. Some I's and T's need dotted and crossed, so to say, from the side of Maryville. They push out mid, they push out bot, they get this Cloud Soul. They then have two of the better buffs in the game. Well, Cloud Soul isn't the greatest thing in the world, that at minimum is something. And this is definitely just a last-ditch grab. Like, what are you guys doing here? Come on.
You're trying, but you're dying as Dog goes down, and so does Infectrix. So does the Drake. That is Soul picked up for Maryville with an absolutely dominating display at the 24-minute mark.
And now they're 30 seconds. You don't have your Kindred, you don't have your Braum, so you don't even have protection now for the Azir or for the Ezreal or for your Sylas to really walk up with. At this point, all they really have to do is pinch them away from a lane, walk up into the base, and take the Nexus. This is the end of the game.
Oh, they're just padding KDAs.
Oh, yeah.
They know they won this. Oh, yeah, trying to find more. Freeze going for the fancy feet, goes in. No shuffle gonna be done. Get a few autos. Emperor's Divide comes out, but it's not gonna be enough. Wolf will pick up the kill. Freeze almost did get the 1v1, though, so a little bit impressive.
Yeah, pretty good stuff there. Okay. Maybe a shutdown on a Shady. Revenge.
Okay. And you are back in it. That's a kill. The Conky. He's got one in the pocket. His first kill of the game. This is it right here. This is where things start to turn around. The Nexus is exposed, but please ignore that, and you are going to make their comeback right now. Baroned up minions, Dragon Soul. Yeah, on second thought, there's nothing to really stop the momentum of Maryville as they're going to take game number 1 of this best-of-3 series.
I mean, you could say that Maryville won the game, but Shady's KDA was ruined because he died, all right? There's who really won this one in that regard? Maryville came out with such an amazing game plan. They had a good composition. It was designed around team fighting. They played around bot lane, which, again, that's not a very typical thing for them to do. They do it on occasion, but this was kind of built around the fact that, again, Kanaki, Dog, they were relatively new additions to the roster, and you saw them kind of get picked apart by Value and Shady down there. The rest of the map just complied with what they wanted to do, and slowly they just removed everything surgically. It was really impressive stuff in game 1.
Surgical is the best word I could really use to describe that. There was a lot of precision in the way Maryville handled this game. I mean, they focused on their power side. They focused on Shady, getting those hooks time and time again on the bot side to just make Dog's life hell and get Value going. That wasn't enough. Niles is going to 1v1 over in the top side. That's not enough. We still got to take down Freeze. Hey, I need a little bit of backup. Let's call an iconic kill secured. And that was it. Maryville just played the map afterwards. They were always quick to get to those neutrals objectives. Macro is the story of that team, and they really put it on display in that match.
That they did, and coming into game 2, I think ANEW has to look at this bot lane and reassess. I don't know if it was a substitution that brought them there. I don't know if this is their starting duo. If it is a substitution, look and see if you can get your other players back. If not, you got to do something to pad this, because this is one of the most defensive bot lanes you can possibly draft, and it still got bullied in the laning phase. I don't know how that's possible. If you're doing that, if that's happening, you got to draft the exact polar opposite. You're drafting Callista Draven, you're drafting something aggressive at support, and you're just playing all in to try to oppress the other two and just flip the script as best you can. But otherwise, the rest of the map didn't go perfectly either. And so there's a lot of question marks on the board here for ANEW after game 1.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks, but that being said, it is not over yet. I mean, ANEW did get stomped by Dark Allegiance in one of those matches, and they were able to just be able to collect themselves and get that series victory against Dark Allegiance. Maybe they're able to do the same thing here. Only time will tell, and only the next draft will really tell with that one, I feel. We are going to throw it to a short break. When we return, we'll get into game number 2 of Maryville University versus ANEW Dawn. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Upsurge Premier League, week number 2, Maryville University versus ANEW Dawn, and game number 1, Rebel. Game number 1.
Game
I'm
number
just-
one. It did happen. Kind of looked like a warm-up game, maybe for both sides. Got to get the hams ready for this one, but hopefully game two, ANEW will come back with a better plan. They get blue side this time, so maybe a little bit of
Mhm.
difference in the draft, and hopefully we get some new life breathed into this team.
Yeah, we definitely need it because that was, you said it right before the break, surgical on how that deconstruction happened. Maryville were quick to take a lead and would not let go of it. You know, we only saw very few, very minor mistakes like Iconic getting caught out next to the Baron. Like, well, it sucks, but it didn't really stop them from murdering the map.
Yeah, they're always willing to take very positive trades pretty much across the map, no matter
Mm,
what. Where they will capitalize on whatever they believe to be the proper objective, and they're pretty much always going to be able to secure that one for themselves. I think that becomes the important part of knowing about Maryville, where I don't think a new Dawn can play responsive. They can't say, "Oh, we're going to force you to make plays around the map," because Maryville will make plays around the map. A new has to come
mhm,
out with a game plan of their own and say, "Here's what we want to do." And then go execute it. Because worst case, Maryville can stop you,
mhm.
and then you can say you tried. But if you play another style like that last one, where you're like, okay, we're gonna wait for late game, we're gonna use all this damage and just try to win fights, like Maryville's just gonna take your map from you, as you saw.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes right there. You cannot draft for late game against Maryville because Maryville is too sound on their macro. So we need to see just mid game skirmishes. They kind of went for that in their last draft, but not really enough to stop some of the disasters we saw, like Niles getting a 1v1 on the top side.
Yeah, little things like that you just can't give over. Little tiny advantages because they will just
Mm,
spring into much larger advantages. It's a snowball rolling down a hill effect where literally snowballing is exactly the word for it. We're back into we're going to set up draft here hopefully
mhm,
soon between the two teams. And again, I'm really confused. I'm really concerning myself with what ANEW is going to do differently when they're on blue side because I think there's a lot of benefit to having blue side in this meta, especially now that we've gotten a couple of weeks on 1019 to observe some new things.
mhm. So we are going to get to that draft in just a moment. I mean, yeah, the way this has to play out, you definitely got to be careful about the way you start approaching this draft because Maryville, yeah, Zoo's a great drafter overall when it comes to setting up Maryville for success when they start hitting the rift when we get to this phase.
They do, and I know ANEW Dawn. They want to try to control Wolfie's ability to get out on the map. I know they didn't do a phenomenal job attacking him. They tried to attack the solo lanes a
Mhm,
little bit with Infectrix. I'm curious if that's the style. If they're gonna play something where you want to take very early control of the bottom side, I don't think you want defensive bot side. I made a point to that last time where I
mhm.
memed it by saying, "Oh, pick Callista Draven and just play perma push." But like honestly, if you've got a priority bot lane, makes it all the easier to try to pull attention away from those solos to make some things happen for Infectrix.
Yeah, so TF banned away, nothing different from what we saw last time, as well as Camille. You don't want Cavell getting that. It's definitely one of his favorite champions to hit the Rift. Another ban onto the Lucian, which has had 100% presence so far, just banned out constantly all the time in UPL. I really wonder what ANEW are going to go for a priority on this one. I feel like they definitely need some reprieve over towards the bot lane because Value and Shady were just given too much room to do what they want. That being said, I don't think it's going to be like a straight up first pick. I do think it's going to come in the second part of this draft. But yeah, first pick to come up, ANEW Dawn. Let's see what they go for.
Yeah, with the Caitlyn taken off the board, there's nothing really super hard priority in the bottom lane that you can go
Mhm,
for the most part to just play pure lane dominance. You can always play like Caitlyn Morgana. The Shed would be an interesting one because again, you can actually attack a Shen lane to some extent. It has good control in certain lanes, and it also is something that works globally to try to protect against. If you play the Azrael Braum something defensive, Shed can move there and then try to make plays there. So perhaps ANEW wants to play like an outnumber style where you have a couple of globals across the map and use those to generate fights in that way, which honestly would have worked better in the previous game. So I wouldn't be shocked to see something similar, but with just a couple of champions kind of mixed about.
yeah, so Shen's going to be the first pick this time going over to ANEW. And, you know, I complain a lot about champions sometimes, but when I saw that River Shen, I'm just a salty person when it comes to draft. That's all I am at the end of the day. So Shen gets locked in for ANEW. Maryville, they're going over towards that Nidalee. I talked about it, man. I talked about the Nidalee sins. Iconic's going to be picking that up.
Yeah, everybody likes the Nidalee Sin, and with Graves taken off the board, with Lily off the board again, it's that and a Tekram, and to me, Iconic tends to bode more towards the likes of this Nidalee. There's a few things you can do in mid lane that are interesting as well as top lane with it, and so I'm curious where their solo lanes are going to go, but to me, it does indicate that they're going to pick for ADC or for support role here. Typically, they're going to hold
Mhm.
Shady's pick, so it's not shocking. The Ashe hasn't looked great at Worlds. I know it was hit a little bit, but wasn't hit specifically this patch, but it hasn't found the most success. But again, most of these teams have probably been scrimming with it for at least 6, 7 patches, something like that. So they're going to keep it in the champion pool, and they're going to be able to play it without Caitlyn, without Lucian, without most things. This is probably still one of the stronger champions available.
I mean, it's on it's on value. He's done a great job at landing Ash arrows from a distance. It should be fine enough. It's going to be interesting to see the response that comes out of ANEW, though, as they hover over towards the Jhin. Actually going to look to just straight up lock that in. So now we got Shen, now we got a Jhin, we got some protection, we got some damage coming in from ANEW.
I know there's a lot of kind of mixed opinion on what exactly the Jhin is capable of bringing to the table. But obviously into the likes of Ashe, into the likes of Caitlyn, and some of the other picks, even though like Senna, this has been kind of a preference pick for a lot of people. And so the Jhin is comfortable. It's not a #1 carry by any standard, but it can certainly do a job to support something that wants to get aggressive. And the Rek'Sai, super, super interesting to me because again, Hecarim is available. There's a few other champions like Lee Sin that are kind of sitting right next. And Rek'Sai, maybe rising in priority, a lot of damage on that champion. Really good into Lilia specifically, but also can make some moves into the likes of this Nidalee when the time comes.
Yeah, and this does put some pretty scary scenarios for Maryville to have to deal with. I mean, Maryville so far, they are drafting a lot of pick. They have gone for the Orianna. Get on that in just a second. But over for ANEW, I mean, once you get the queen in there, it's very easy to dive deep. And when you have a partner such as the Shen and the Stand United, you can get on that back line and be able to do some damage.
I mean, Shen in this particular case, like the Rek'Sai is going to have to be the all of the delivery for him because I don't really think even a flash taunt isn't likely to land onto this massive backline you've got that can operate from so far away. Orianna's the lowest range out of these three. That's kind of not where you want to be. But again, if you're playing from that range, if you're setting things up with Rek'Sai, if you've got maybe an Ornn in your opportunity here for the side of a New Dawn, they can try to get people into that backline, close that space, and then that's when the Shen starts to attack. That's when like Jhin ultimate can start to do some work as well.
And the way I talked about that, I talked about the Shen alting the Rek'Sai, not the Shen alting the Jhin. And there's a good reason for that, and it's just simply that ANEW have to be forward with their presence. They have to be forward with their momentum. If you're getting those Stand Uniteds onto the Jhin, it means you're responding to what Maryville's doing. ANEW have to be the proactive ones.
100%. I never like to see a passive Shen, just because it breaks my heart every single time that he's got so much damage and so much potential, and you're going to sit there and play him like a ward, unfortunately, in some circumstances. The Leona is taken here inside with the Ashe, which is interesting because that's a pretty decent punishment for the likes of the Jhin. On the opposite side, they're playing this very long-range team into another long-range team. We're going to see a lot of dead space here that the Rek'Sai, that the Shen, and even the Nautilus are going to have to traverse, and there's going to be a lot of Zoe, a lot of Jhin, and a good amount of Ashe and Nidalee just kind of in this dead space aiming at other people.
Yeah, the range is going to be kind of insane, but once you get a pick, that is also insane. I mean, we've seen what Zoe can do with the paddle stars. We've seen what the Nidalee spears could do. One of the OG long-range poke utility tools. The Nautilus getting locked in all the meanwhile for a New Dawn. One more pick to come out of Maryville. They're hovering over the Fiora right now. Don't know how I feel about that one, but here we go. Locking in the Kled over on the top side for Niles.
Okay, now that's something. I know back at the beginning of the year, I believe Kled was actually a pretty strong pick, and if I recall, he was actually a very good Kled player to the point where people were banning that out pretty consistently. It was like the pick that Niles grabbed before Gangplank came into his champion pool, and then Gangplank, even in this game, you see the Gangplank's been banned away. But this was the champion before that, which makes a lot of sense because it's ball delivery. It capitalizes on like Ashe Arrow or Leona ultimate. And you're playing into the opposite team where you've got so much range to work with like the Zoe and the Jhin that maybe you'd be able to engage with the likes of the Kled. So I do like the pick. It kind of invades that neutral space very aggressively.
And we are getting some confirmation right now that the Rek'Sai pick isn't going through. This was actually a placeholder for Lee Sin. So Lee Sin, Infectrix, Nidalee Sin. It's happening. We got it on one side, we got it on the other.
Oh, you're big braining today, dude. You called that. You called the hook coming out from Shady. You're calling the Nidalee Sin from these guys. Like, this is just too much from Deseret. He's smurfing on this broadcast. But I like this a lot better. I don't think Rek'Sai is quite as strong as some of the champions, and Lee Sin's not the strongest he's ever been, but he's kind of right outside that top 4. And so if you want to substitute something like Hecarim for Lee Sin because you don't feel comfortable with your composition, that's fine. This gives you early game pressure. It gives you something to play around specifically in that, like, okay, Zoe wants to drop bubbles, but she can get abused if there's nobody spacing here. So if you've got a Lee Sin, he becomes your primary mode of focus, where then Jhin gets to put supplementary damage, Zoe puts supplementary damage, and Shen has somebody to jump onto aggressively.
Yeah, and with Lee Sin, you do get a lot of early game mobility. You get a lot of early game power and presence. That being said, he has been changed quite a bit. So, you know, we always talked about the fall off of Lee Sin. It's much more devastating now that, you know, the patches have shaped him the way it's shaped. Over in Worlds, he's not seen as often, even though there's a lot of prominent Lee Sin players. There's quite a few people out there who will just argue that, oh no, Lee Sin's just outright dead, dude. Like, don't even do it.
I don't know about you. Something that I've wanted to see become mainstream for a while. So Suning is Chinese 3rd seed coming out of the LPL. Their jungler is Sopham. He's from the VCS. He builds Knight's Vow 2nd item. He goes Warrior, Knight's Vow, full support Lee Sin, because it doesn't fall off, and you have all that support of it. I've always wanted to see that come to other regions and come into like amateur scene, because I love the build and I think it's great. But nobody plays him like that here. This will be likely full lethality Lee Sin, where he's just trying to murk people as fast as possible.
Oh man, that would be an interesting thing to see. Warrior with Knight's Vow, huh? They're just not gonna commit to the, you know, the tankier Cinderhold stuff or anything like that.
No.
Why does that work though? Why does that work?
Like I say, it's the early game power of a Warrior Lee Sin, and then like you would fall off if you build more damage unless you just get a full combo. So instead of worrying about it, you have to get kicks off anyway. So you might as well be useful when you're not kicking people. So the idea is like you throw Knight now, lock it onto him. He becomes a support and an engage and has okay damage early, where he's still Lee Sin. Like it's that simple. But again, in this particular game, I think he has some room to build more damage, and he has a lot of champions that help him with that, especially if he's getting onto like Orianna, Ashe, some of these squishier targets.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that plays out. You know, maybe he wins over Rebel's heart and goes for the Ninth Bell Warrior. Highly doubt it. We're going to throw it over to short break. But before we do, we got to shout out one of our parent companies, and that is the Unified Esports Association. UEA is a Kansas-based company that oversees multiple products that specialize and operate as a dynamic pipeline within the esports industry, providing shared experiences that directly serve collegiate youth, hobbyists, and amateur video game players at every stage. Starting as small as student groups out to Wichita State University, since then, UAE has grown to be a veteran organizer to tournaments and events throughout the U.S. They host tournaments for games like League of Legends, Rocket League, as well as Overwatch. For more information, check them out at uea.gg. We'll be right back with more Upsurge. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Upsurge Premier League week number 2. Maryville University, a new dawn, going head-to-head right now with Maryville getting that game number 1 win in this best of 3. Now these teams hitting the rift once again, ANEW trying to find their vengeance, and they might have come up with a new strategy right here. We're seeing a very, very frisky 5-man invade.
Oh, Niles didn't step into the river. No!
Oh.
No, it's greedy. Step into the river. No!
Here it comes. Looking to find Niles, but
he's pretty far.
He might be clip-clop anyway. Oh, no! He got hit by the sleepy trouble bubble. Here comes Sonic Wave. Here's the taunt as well as the resonating strike. Niles, he's not going to burn his flash. He knows he's dead to rights right there. First blood off of that invade coming out from ANEW.
Very well played from ANEW. Very, very patient Q coming out from Infectrix right there because he waited for the Shen taunt flash, which was able to secure the kill and make sure he gets dismounted. Which, again, once you're dismounted as Kled, you can't really run away. You have to fight the game as best as possible.
All right. Unfortunately, there is a technical issue right now. We still got the action rolling. We'll return to the game in just a moment. But yeah, we're talking about ANEW strats. That is a new strategy right there. Why not just go for the 5-man invade, try your luck, and try and get that early advantage going for you?
Seemed to work out for them, and even better, I think they actually ended up getting their kill onto the Zoe, which is a very, very pivotal part of this composition to be able to design. Getting that mid lane major head, it's going to get you more wave clear, more itemization. It's a lot of damage that Zoe can put out for sure.
Yeah, definitely getting it onto the Zoe feels very, very good. Once those battle stars start ramping up, it is one of the most tilting things. Just me on my soapbox still complaining about League of Legends. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the jungle pressure that comes out early. As we're seeing right now, Iconic already going for that gank in the mid lane. Sleepy Trouble Bubble goes out. It's going to delay just a little bit, buying enough time for Freeze to be able to escape. But look at deep in the jungle. Infectrix is quite in there.
That he is. He's a very stuck boy right now. He is so far in here where you're not going to be able to steal any cat. That is so sad coming out from Infectrix, where he's going to have to back very early. He does get the red buff, though, so at least that to hang your hat on. And no warding defensively because, again, they got shoved out of topside off of that invade coming through. So kind of impressive stuff from Infectrix, knowing where to attack on the map based on what had happened earlier on in the game. I know right now Niles is probably steaming and he wants to solo kill this Shen as fast as possible. Shady gets too aggressive with that. He gets a little bit punished under tower.
Yeah, now that Dog is the one with the leash, now that he controls the hook, Shady better watch out because right now Dog is coming for some revenge, holding him underneath the tower like that, already getting Shady to burn his flash.
He is. And again, I know the Leona is typically considered a counter pick to the likes of the Nautilus, but that's not just like a direct counter pick. Actually, got a lot of action happening in this top side of the map, and Shen can absorb a couple of those vicious strikes from this Kled as Infectrix. He's hovering in the area. I know everybody in this game wants to get kills as often as possible, but this is kind of a rough situation for everybody.
Ooh, Freeze coming in with the paddle stars, not going to be able to land it, just going to be happy getting in those autos and getting in more and more damage on the Wolf, just trying to be that nuisance. All that being said, a roam is coming in, both from the support Dog, as you can see, coming in from the bot side. You do have Iconic nearby over on that Raptor camp to be able to back him up, but it's just going to be for Vision as he does start to back off.
The case, you're able to shove in Wolfie here, and I don't think you can unlock Zoe entirely based off of this. I think if the Nautilus had maybe got aggressive, pushed him off this wave, could have stacked a couple more minions, and that would have been the back timing. There is a Lee Sin mid lane, though, that could take advantage of Wolfie. He has the cleanse, he doesn't have anything defensive like the exhaust or the heal, and doesn't have the TP either, so if he dies, that's real bad.
Flash burnt on Wolf, gets caught by the Sleepy Trouble Bubble as well. A lot of pressure over towards this mid lane. All that being said, Wolf does have the cleanse, so he is able to get away from a lot of these ganks, get away from a lot of the pressure that's going to go on. But it's still opening up the map for ANEW to be able to get a kill onto Niles? 1v1, Cavell gets his revenge.
Okay, first off, Shen is not fair. Okay, Shen is not a fair champion. Okay, anybody from Riot, if you happen to be watching this, please nerf this champion because it is just too strong. Second, Cavell is a cheater, and he's a cheater because he has Ignite, and that's cheating on Shen. You're not allowed to have Ignite.
Oh, I hear that caster bias coming in. Maryville Rebel Fox trying to defend his Niles. Not today. Not today, dude.
No.
Not today.
I mean, I can at least respect the fact that he takes Ignite on the Shen, because you have that ultimate to be able to respond to global pressure. That does mean in terms of like the control on this side of the map, it actually heavily goes towards Niles because there's no TP, because you can't expend your ultimate. This is a fun battle between these two. Go. No abilities. Auto attacks only. Go.
Here comes the Paddle Star. Nope. Auto attacks only? Well, there's one auto attack. There's auto attack number 2. Infectrix will pick up the kill on the Wolf.
Who would have guessed that the blind monk with big arms would win the auto attack battle? Small ballerina robot. But,
yeah, he was just trying to feel out where he was. That's all
true.
it was.
Where am I? Throws his fist directly towards her. Oh, it's terrifying to think about. But really, really good stuff so far coming out from the side of ANEW, and the fact that like they're playing super aggressive. Yeah, you had the kill with Cavell, who was able to outduel. You had the invade early. Infectrix had been all over the map. He's been getting aggressive into the jungle of Iconic. This is looking so much different. Last game they were very passive. They got their bot lane just gapped basically by the side of Maryville. And in this one, they're the ones making all of the attacking moves. You got to appreciate the way that they've shifted their focus since they've swapped over to blue side now.
Yeah, they got that first blood, and ever since, it's just been a pretty good display coming out of ANEW, as we know. Like, a kill and an assist on Freeze, getting him going early, getting that Zoe to be a nuisance. Same thing going over with Cavell and Infectrix. The top side of the map is looking so strong for ANEW right now.
That it is. Now, I will say I'm not super big fan. The Bramble Vest early I would have expected on Cavell, whether he had Ignite or not, but I don't really like the Ignite since he focused the Bramble Vest this early into the game. Yes, it might have cost him that one solo kill, but I think having the teleport would have been a much better play here against the likes of the Kled, because you can get across the map much better to support the Jhin or attack the bottom side compared to Kled, who would have had to walk halfway down or burn the TP himself. It just seems like the Ignite was a lot, and yes, it gets you the solo kill once in a cheese, but it just doesn't seem like enough.
And this was a very sneaky route to come out of Dog to be able to get this hook onto Iconic. Now Iconic going to be on the run. Here comes Sleepy. Trouble bubble perfectly placed. Land another Paddle Star. The Niles get the auto to finish off the kill. One more hook to go in. Iconic will follow his teammate. A double kill over onto Freeze. Off to the races as the Zenith Blade underneath the tower. Here comes the curtain call, getting a lot of shots onto Value, who's just standing in the face of it, firing away onto Conky. But here comes the Stand United. Cavell looking to show up and turn the tides of this fight. Is that exactly what he will do? Health bar too low. Sub 100. Shady will fall. Value gonna follow suit as Cavell grabs the kill off the Stand United.
And you point out the fact that, again, they are pushing the pedal to the metal in this one on the side of ANEW. They've got the composition to do it. They've got Shen, they've got the Lee Sin, they're making plays around. They're giving kills over to their Zoe. They're controlling pretty much everything in terms of the lane state right now. And that should give them access to the river. They should start picking up neutral objectives, and that's where that gold and that map control can really start to spike. Also, just because I think it's important in case Mr. Lol Smacks is watching right there, I think that the Ashe, my apologies, actually out DPS'd the ultimate from Jhin, which is the most hilarious thing I ever saw. If somebody would clip that and send that to me so I can send it to Smacks, I'd really very much enjoy that.
Yeah, he just stood in the face eating every single shot. I don't care. You know,
he's just on. It wasn't even like Q or W, and there's no item. He's just like straight auto attacking into the ult of Jhin, and it didn't matter. He's still on DPS.
But the story was Stand United. That's what we saw come through. And at this rate, I feel like Maryville, we need to see a little bit more on the map play, because as it is right now, the laning phase is not looking too good for them. There's very limited things they can do when it comes to this lane. So we need to start seeing some rotations. We need to start seeing plays. And I guess that's what we're seeing right now, because the rotation is headed towards the bot side. Here comes the charge coming out of Niles, and here comes the dive. Dog now under attack, and so is Conky trying to take this tower. It's going to be done beautifully. Niles will grab the double kill.
I was about to make mention when you were talking about this. They want to be proactive with something, but again, it's kind of difficult with exclusively ANEW to do so. It's more so the Kled that's going to have to do it, and you see right there the reason why. He's able to collapse in their tower. They cancel the tower aggro, things like that. And surprisingly, this dragon has not been taken. It's been 7 kills, easy priority in the jungle matchup where you've gotten kills, and massive mid priority as well. Yet somehow they were not able to translate any of that into a dragon. So this Drake actually might go the way of Maryville. It looks like maybe Iconic is a little too low, but still a lot of bot lane priority given back to the side of Maryville off of that. They still have a lot of top side control. And again, with now both global and ultimate, or teleport, my apologies, down for Niles, this does open up the Shen to get somewhere on the map and try to make a play elsewhere.
Yeah, Stand United will be coming up quite soon. The Drake is available. Shelly will hit the Rift, slime it down into the mid lane, able to get more and more gold onto Freeze. Speaking of gold, just taking a look, almost 2K separating the mid laners already, as Niles going for the 1v1 against Gavel, instantly wants to back off. It's a Shen with Ignite. That is a scary thing to fight, and Niles has seen it already 3 times too many.
No, you don't understand. That's cheating. You're not allowed to do that on Shen. Like you're not allowed to play aggressive Shen. It's not fair. Okay, we're gonna see an actual illusion between these two.
You're not allowed to win against Maryville is what you're telling me, as here comes the arrow iconic, able to jump on in and pick up that kill with style, which sets up the Ocean Drake to be taken by Maryville.
And again, they shifted their control to the bottom side of the map. This was pretty evident. I'm a little bit shocked that they weren't just trying to continue to press their advantage in the mid lane for the side of ANEW, or press their top lane. Look, that mid tower is down to just 1 plate. You're telling me you couldn't just try to get lane priority and look to push somewhere in there? You can't really contest the 4-on-4 for some reason, but instead they get picked off in the river trying to reclaim control where they know Maryville has that warding, and instead ANEW gets punished. And now the game's still 1.5, 2,000 gold lead advantage of ANEW, but this Nidalee starting to pick up a little bit of steam. You get that first dragon, and that means you can stall the game an additional 5 minutes for that soul condition. There's at least some stuff going back into the form of Maryville. I want to see them reclaim tempo here.
Definitely been reclaiming quite a bit of tempo with the way they've been playing this. Actually got to hold that thought, because going straight onto Niles will be Infectrix trying to finish off the kill. Here comes the spear. It's not going to land. Stand United will be channeled to make sure Infectrix will stay safe, but ANEW able to grab another kill, all to the dismay of Dean Rebel Fox Merrick.
I prefer to see this. I like the idea of giving them an advantage as they continue. I even like more so the fact that, like, you can consider this in one of 2 ways. Either A, they're abandoning this Jhin and he's not going to have any damage now because he has to lane on his own. Oh, wait, I'm gonna wait for that. Okay, never mind. Or you know that Jin's never going to have damage, so they don't care about leaving him alone. I think that's more the case.
While leaving him alone, it does give a lot of pressure to be applied from Value and Shady towards the spot side to try and collect a lot of those plates that are coming up. Already 2 plates have gone down in favor of Maryville's bot lane, as opposed to the 1 that's been picked up by ANEW's bot lane. But at the same time, it is a little bit to be expected. Jhin is not exactly the best when it comes to taking down those plates.
Not really. Kind of a tough ADC to make work like that. Like I said, he's not a primary damage dealer on your team. This composition is all about the Zoe, and I like the fact that they were able to funnel so much gold into her very early. They haven't really unlocked her from the laning phase because of the damage that and the CC that, or my apologies, not the CC, the wave clear that the Orianna can bring to the table. But if they're able to get her out of this laning phase, especially if they break that mid, inner, or outer tower, there's an opportunity for the Zoe to really cause havoc and maybe break this Jhin loose, break this Shen even further loose than he already is, and the map starts to just flood in their favor. I really got to see that happen very quickly. I think that's really how ANEW starts to break this game wide open, is getting the Zoe involved.
And then the right situation to do it. Freeze has already completed his first item. He has the Luden's Echo paired with that Dark Still. So he does have quite a bit of frontline damage when it comes to those paddle stars. Something Wolf is definitely going to have to watch out for as he sees those sleepy trouble bubbles get closer and closer. And the damning thing about those bubbles is they can come from almost any single angle, especially if there's a wall right there to really give it its distance.
And given the fact that you have the priority on the wave, you've now got the blue buff, and also you took minion DMAX as the Zoe. That means your wave clear is going to be better, so you can step into the river and cast a shadow on where your positioning is, so that you can use some of these angles onto the Orianna if Infectrix wants to get aggressive or even roam around a little bit. I would actually rather them use that angle to their advantage. Big bubble.
Whoa, the paddle star! That damage from the Ludens really paying dividends right there. Freeze is able to get the 1v1. Here comes Infectrix trying to even the odds of this fight. Shady will take that damage, and so will Iconic. Out comes the Solar Flare. Iconic critically low, able to heal himself back up as the teleport comes through. Niles going to show up to this fight, going straight after Freeze, who flashes over the wall. It's going to be a return here as the Stand United is pop damage, getting so critically low is Niles as he falls underneath the tower. Shady tried to stay alive, but Freeze will claim him, and ANEW able to carefully play that team fight. It was back and forth, so close to going the other way, but they're looking to take even more. Freeze puts out the bubble to sleep, straight to the gray screen. Freeze grabs a kill, but it's not over just yet. More and more to come as Wolf shows up to the fight. One more auto to finish it off, almost gets finished off in the process, but still a revenge kill nonetheless. What a wild ride that was, Rebel.
And exactly what they are looking for on the side of ANEW. Yes, you lose a couple of players and shutdowns in that mid lane to the likes of the Orion and the Ashe and the carries on the side of Maryville, but you broke so much open in this game by unlocking your Zoe, by getting that mid tower down, by getting Infectrix a few more kills, and now getting the second Rift Herald controlled. There is so much more that you can do on this map. You can now transition this Zoe into playing towards the side lane, trying to control where everybody else is on the map. And from that, you should be able to have a stranglehold at minimum of the rivers here. This right here is what I was looking for from ANEW for a while. It took them a little bit, but they were able to find the overload to make it happen.
Yeah, that being said, though, that fight went on long enough that Wolf died, came back, and was able to get the kill on Freeze. And it was definitely a very juicy kill to pick up. I mean, if we look at the gold now, he still is behind, but now it's just what? About 2.2k. It's not that growing lead that it should be at this state of the game. So Wolf is definitely still staying in it, and he's definitely this big team fighter that Maryville are going to need if they want to make that comeback.
The Zoe's already pumping out damage as well compared to like what the Oriana is, and the Rabadons is what's going to be done next. It's about 600, 700 gold off before that Zoe really starts to hit like a truck. Now, like it's crazy because Maryville's actually completely claimed control of this dragon. If they grab another one, they're not only setting themselves up for potential Dragon Soul eventually, but they've taken 10 minutes off the clock that ANEW might have wanted to accelerate this game.
Ooh, a lot of forward damage going in. And now the engage onto Maryville. Going forward is Niles trying to go for that backline, absorbing a lot of damage to kick away. Shady jumps in, but will fall. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade thus far as Value continues the autos, finding the slows. Here comes the root, not going to find its mark as the shutdown comes in. Wolf will grab that kill. Kenki now on the run. Zoom looking to try and find that spear. Out it goes, not going to land. Niles diving under the tower, immediately has to back off, but two picked up into the pocket of Maryville, only costing him Shady thus far. Niles getting hit by that paddle star will be able to sidestep the sleepy trouble bubble. Overall, a big net win for Maryville, as not only did they get the kill win, they got the Drake.
They, ANEW knew that the control was over on the side of Maryville. They were aware of the fact that they were stepping in. They thought they could simply flex a gold advantage over their opposition here. But that's what it goes to show you. If you've got proper control of the river, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, that's just a straight up pick. I don't think that was I wasn't expecting that. I'm sure that Wolfie wasn't expecting that, as Kenki probably wasn't expecting this either.
Yeah. Nidalee in the bush just pops right on out. There comes the spear. Down goes the turret. Another win going over to Maryville. So, I mean, that trade alone is technically 1-for-1, but now it's a turret picked up for Maryville. They're really closing down on this lead. You can see it right now. The gold lead is shrinking so much for ANEW. This early game that they've played is going away.
Is okay. Infectrix trying to turn a little bit. They've done a pretty good job, but again, when they have these massive leads on things like Zoe, like Kenki, like Valerie, they opt for fights in really bad situations that they just cannot whatsoever give up, because you're giving 600, 700 gold instead of 200, 300 gold where you'd be dying normally. And so because of that, a little bit of wrestled back territory here from the side of Maryville, especially given the fact that Wolfie's picked up a couple of kills and started to become a little bit of a menace on the Oriana himself.
Yeah, it was 2.2k earlier when I had just said it like a minute ago. Now it's 1.4k separating these mid laners. So Wolfie definitely closing the gap right now. It's the charge going towards the bot lane. Kenki just got back. Kenki just got back from that spawn. He's being ganked again. Niles, you're being a bully. There's no reason to get that mad over Cavell having Ignite to bully Kenki like that.
In fairness, I don't think it's actually ruining any of Jin's damage. If anything, they're probably giving him more damage by not making him buy more items somehow. I don't know exactly how the math works out on that one, but still, they are picking on the Jin. That's the one weak spot on the map. Okay,
oh.
Ooh, wow.
And one of your strong spots on the map for ANEW just got annihilated. That's one of the things we didn't really talk about. When it comes to that portal jump, it makes a very predictable shot for the Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
It does. These fights are so fast, too. You talk about, like, Ashe lands an arrow that's an immediate nid spear into a full combo, and she just dies. There's nothing you can do. You talk about Kled in the bot lane. If he catches onto Jin, that's an immediately dead Jin. There's not much you can do about that. The responses aren't there if Nautilus isn't around, if Shen isn't around, doesn't have the ultimate to respond. So because of that, somehow Maryville is playing the game that ANEW tried to play in game number 1. The difference is it's working for them because they've got the Ashe arrow. They've got the Nidalee to be able to capitalize on long-range CC. They've got the Kled to be able to capitalize on people who've pushed too far up, and somehow they've also claimed the first 2 dragons. If they were down 2 dragons, it wouldn't matter that the gold was even, but unfortunately, because they're up 2 dragons, there's even more in the back pocket.
Ooh, there comes the Shockwave, looking to take down Cavell, who has to burn his flash to be able to get away.
Nice.
Still Wolf chasing a little bit more. Instead, just going to back off and clear the wave. Happy enough grabbing the flash, Cavell.
They are going to shove the Shen far, far back in his lane, and they're trying to capture control of this bottom river, but that's a nice bubble.
Ooh, this is where we're expecting more out of ANEW. They needed to plays like this where they're going for the pick. The problem is here, they're not able to grab the kill. Shady flashing over the wall will survive. Now Niles looking for the re-engage. Value on the flank, completely uncontested as Freeze tries to walk away. Value going for Infectrix though, and now Niles, after 3 people on his own, Cavell looking to run away. The damage from the Paddle Star hits flush onto Value, but it's not going to be enough to take him down as just Niles eating away at the members of ANEW. Here comes the solar flare, and there comes the volley to follow suit. Value grabbing that kill, Wolf grabbing Kanki. Maryville, they've hit the gas pedal, and they're not letting go. They're going back to game number 1 after a very, very shaky early game.
It is shocking just how easily they were able to turn something like this around. It looked really, really desperate though. The first few kills, the first tower, all these things going to the side of ANEW Esports, it didn't matter because they were able to find the picks, the shutdowns, and the gold to make it happen. That last fight, there was so much time burnt, so many resources burnt from ANEW by just Shady and Iconic on a Nidalee and a Leona who aren't really that important at that stage of the game, that it allowed this re-engage from Niles where they end up finding every member for just the one. Really, really impressive stuff to come back from such a deficit and not ever really look like you're even worried about losing this game.
And this feels like it really did stem from the dragon fight that we saw earlier. ANEW weren't really willing to just utilize their poke, to get it in there, to get those paddle stars to land flush. Instead, they just rushed straight for the engage. And that plays so well into Maryville, who just want to be engaged on because it makes it easier for Value to be protected, for that crowd control to come out, and for that damage to just ring true. And that's what we're seeing. Just Maryville, they're able to play that team fight game so crisp and punish the living daylights out of ANEW even when they're ahead.
And it's a game of seconds here for the side of ANEW as well, because all they're losing is a little bit of pressure in these rivers with all that vision. Actually, Zoe, really terrible plays.
Oh, really trying to get in that paddle star damage. Shady getting low. Kanki on the run. Dies once again for time number 5. Dog will follow suit for time number 6. Here comes the charge. Once again, Niles looking to show up to the fight. Over the wall comes Iconic. Lands the spear. Will be kicked away. The damage going through as the auto lands. Finding the slow volley. Not able to make it, but you're going too far from home. That is the complete wrong direction you want to run in. Infectrix, you got nowhere to go, friend. That's the end, and it's met by Wolf.
It's really, really simple to make that happen. A couple of pick tools, they spread this team fight out. Not everybody's clustered together. It almost, what needs to happen for the side of ANEW is they need to control an area of the map and then choose what it is that they want to fight around. Use their poke of their Zoe, and use the control that they've got everywhere. Actually, really nice shutdown here onto the likes of the Orianna, but even that might not be enough. Value has too much damage, and they don't have a smite to really contest this, so it will just be a Baron, likely going to Maryville outside of a Miracle Steal here.
That's Paddle Star being used, but following over the wall, Freeze goes down. Niles grabs that kill. Cavell on the back end as Value makes those arrows ring once again onto Kanki. Wants to give him death number 6. He's on the run now, the flash forward. Kanki just can't get off of the respawn, and neither can Dog. That bot lane has just been so punished.
At this point, you should probably be calling Kanki Dog because the screen is gray literally 100% of the time. And there's Value also just somehow squeaking his way out of that kill because of the CC coming out from Leona. It's like ANEW had lost a little bit of control on the map, and ever since they've just been fighting desperately to reclaim like a 6,000 gold. It's like, why? You had the advantage. All you had to do is let them take something on the map and just go get your own things. Instead, they've just hotly contested. They're continuing to let Maryville reclaim tempo. Because of that, they've now dug themselves into a 7,000 gold deficit, 3 dragons down, and now no Baron as well.
I'm gonna be honest, it feels like they were trying to play Freeze as an assassin. They never really utilized his poke. They would always try and utilize his all-in, which Zoe, yeah, Paddle Star landing is a great all-in. There's a lot of damage to be had, but it's not really playing to the strengths of this comp that ANEW have drafted as it continues to get slaughtered. Value picking up kill number 7.
And now they're going to continue to push with this Baron buff, which is really tough to do, especially without the likes of your Nautilus as your main front line. There's Niles. He's going to kill yet another dog who's got a gray screen to see yet again. I am just lost. Now, I mean, what do you do with your Zoe? You come from the side. That's nice.
Yeah, you send her to the respawn.
She got a nice paddle star, though. There's that.
Yeah, sadly, this is all falling apart right now. It's
Mhm.
just too much for ANEW to handle. I mean, over in the bot side, 15 death collectively for this bot lane. Cavell trying to defend his Nexus towers as the depth charge goes out. Damage still coming in. Value is now legendary in this match. Nexus tower number 1 goes down. Nexus tower gonna follow suit. The kick onto Wolf will find a kill. Value is starting to run low now. Can Kenki find that backline damage as the autos are still ringing through? There comes the Enchanted Crusader. It's gonna be another kill picked up. Niles is collecting on kill number 11. Maryville University destroy ANEW and claim a 2-0 victory.
When it comes to the majority of teams you're going to play in this league, that early lead would have been more than enough to just take a game right then and there from the side of ANEW. Like that early ringing, shutting down the Kled, preventing this Nidalee from getting going in that early. Who just played back into their game. They never really had that solidified 5% of their poke. They never had good warning in anywhere they were trying to fight. And all of those things combined to them just throwing a game away that they likely should have won.
Yeah, it felt like the early game was going quite well. I mean, they got the early kill, what, like 7 uncontested for the first half of the match before things started going down. It just felt like they didn't know how to team fight. They didn't know how to use their team strengths. And Maryville, when they draft with purpose. They know exactly what they're doing and exactly their ways back in.
And the craziest thing to me was like the early game was so dominant for Infectrix. Yes, he had that one kind of pour back after stealing a red buff away from the likes of Iconic. But outside of that, he was having a really good early game where he looked like he was doing stuff. Like how did he fall this far behind? When did he fall 70 CS behind Iconic and 4 level? Like at what point did this Lee Sin just fall off a cliff? Yeah, you have Black. I'm not talking about damage. At what point, really, where is this farm coming from Iconic? He had the most levels in the game. He's level 15. The highest is level 14 on all the other solo laners, things like that. Where in the world was he collecting this farm from? I really just don't know. I don't know how it was that Infectrix came out, I think 3-0 and 3 at one point and ended up 3-4 and 6 with 4 level discrepancy.
Rebel, I think it's the build.
That's fair.
I think it's
Yeah.
not
No
having
Knight's
the
Vow.
Knight's Vow, man. Not
Gotta
having the
agree with
Knight's
you on that
Vow.
one. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I echo your thoughts completely. In a game where it felt like the tempo was solely in the hands of ANEW, what happened? Just like looking at every single one of these scorelines, especially Niles, like he was 0-3 early. He's 11-6-8 now. This is some disgusting stuff.
When you're Niles and you've got Kled, I mean, the whole point of the champion is to fight, and that's kind of what Niles does best. So you just kept throwing his body, and eventually it's stuck. Like you talk about throwing something at the wall until it sticks. He literally threw his body at the wall until it stuck, and it happened to work out. So.
Yeah, so congratulations to Maryville University taking their win in week number 2 in a very dominating fashion, getting that 2-0 victory against one of their bigger competitors in this group, ANEW. Hats off to them. I'm sure Dean Rebel Fox Merrick is very, very happy with this victory as well. Aren't you, Dean? No caster bias.
No caster bias.
But yeah, that's going to do it for here over in the UPL. Upsurge, downsurge back on the screen for some reason. Just got to show off. Just some reason. No real reason. Just some reason. You can figure it out on your own. Just looking at the Rebel, why do you think?
I think that's the end of the stream. Thanks, folks. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. It's been another fantastic week. Be sure to turn into more of Upsurge Esports for some of our other tournaments we have going on, as well as more of the Upsurge Premier League. We'll see you again next week here on Upsurge.